The story begins at the Silver Dragon Dome, where two guards stood in front of a prison keeping watch. Just as the queen arrived, the guards showed her respect. She ordered them to leave as she wished to speak with the prisoner alone. Both guards agreed to step aside. The lady was the Silver Dragon Queen, Rosweisi. She entered the prison to find a man bound in chains. She addressed him as the great dragon-slaying hero and asked how it felt to become a prisoner of their dragon clan. He merely asked her to kill him, to which she responded, questioning whether he truly wanted her to give him a quick death. She leaned closer, commenting that it wouldn't be that easy, and noted he was a handsome and resolute man. Gently moving her hand across his face, she added that if they were to add a few more scars, he would become even more perfect. He recoiled and asked her to stop humiliating him. He told her that she could either kill him or torture him as she pleased, but to do it quickly. She replied that someone as powerful as him, had he not been framed by a villain, would never have fallen into such a miserable state. She then asked him to join their Silver Dragon clan. He smirked and asked if she was worthy enough. She attacked him, striking back with the ball and breaking the chains. He coughed, spitting blood from his mouth. Rosweisi then placed her foot on his chest, asking how he dared to act rudely toward her. She called him by name, Leon Cosmode, and asked if he still thought of himself as the great hero of mankind, praised by thousands. Was he still dreaming of slaying the Dragon Clan and leaving behind a glorious reputation for future generations? She told him to wake up, as he was going to die there like a loser. She added that perhaps he could have left his descendants to enjoy his wealth and glory, but since he had no successor, he wouldn't have such a day. He called her by her name and warned her not to underestimate humans. She used her tail to grip his neck, calling him stubborn. He addressed her as queen, and she wondered if he was ready to beg for mercy. He replied that from the start she had made two mistakes. First, she shouldn't have been alone with the most powerful dragon slayer who had been trained. Second, she should never have tasted the blood of Leon Cosmode. He then used the blood curse on her. She felt something strange as she began to grow hot and sank to her knees, wondering what was happening. He told her that soon she would live with the pain caused by his soul for the rest of her life. She felt something different and in confusion. Took him to the floor, lying on top of him. He was completely bewildered, unsure of what was happening, and wondered if she was becoming aroused. She kissed him, and after a moment of intensity, they became entangled. An hour later, she regained her senses and, realizing the strange condition she was in, covered herself with a white cloth. She shouted at him, demanding to know what he had done to her. He explained that the blood curse was a forbidden technique that could only be used once in a lifetime. If she tasted his blood, a soul bond would form between them. When he died, the curse would subject her to endless pain. She shouted at him, wondering if the curse would take effect after his death, and demanded to know what had just happened between them. He replied that it had been an accident. He had thought the pain caused by his death would manifest, but he hadn't anticipated that its side effect would cause her to experience such a thing. He continued, explaining that, as far as he knew, dragons follow the rule of monogamy. After his death, the great Silver Dragon Queen would not only be unable to find a new mate, but she would also be unable to have offspring or explain to the Dragon Clan why such an event had occurred. The effects of the forbidden spell had far exceeded his expectations. He then asked what she had said earlier. She replied that he would have no successor, and now she too would have no successor, and there would be no dragon hair. In a rush of anger, she attacked him again, still in the same condition. He wondered if she truly wanted to kill him and told her that she didn't need to do it herself. He would die soon enough. He would live with hatred for him and pain throughout her life, as it was his curse to her as a human. Lying on the floor, he heard her call them despicable. She asked if he truly wanted to die, and how could he make it so cheap? She pressed her hand against the mark on his chest. The scene reminded Leon of his past, when he was once a legendary dragon-slaying hero. At the age of 5, he killed his neighbor's vicious dog with his bare hands. He was stopped by a passing top dragon slayer, who took him in as an apprentice. By the age of 10, he entered the Imperial Dragon Slayer Academy for further training, and 4 years later, he graduated as the youngest and highest-rated student in history. At 15, he stepped onto the dragon-slaying battlefield, killing countless dragons, recapturing territory, and earning numerous military achievements for the Empire. He was known as the strongest dragon-slaying hero, the only hope for the Empire to achieve victory and end the war. However, everything changed when he became a captive of the Dragon Clan. 2 years had passed since he was captured. He woke up in a bed and wondered where he was. A girl entered the room, opening the door and saying, so he was awake. Leon couldn't help but think she was cute. He even wondered if he had somehow passed into the afterlife, given his great contributions to mankind. Perhaps this girl was a legendary angel. She asked what an angel was, to which Leon, still sitting up in bed, began a proper conversation by asking for her name. The girl introduced herself as Moon. Leon smiled and said it was a nice name, but he wondered why her hair color was so unusual, a mix of black and white. Moon explained that her name meant the moon. Leon realized that angels must have mothers too, and he introduced himself in return. Mune replied that she already knew who he was, Leon Cosmode. He asked her who had told her that, and she said it was her mother. He guessed something and then asked for her mother's name. Mune answered Ross. The mention of Ross shocked Leon, and he wondered what his relationship was to Mune. Mune replied calmly that he was her father. Leon was stunned, his mind racing as he wondered if Mune was truly the daughter of him and Ross. At that moment, Ross entered the room. Mune went over to her, saying that her father was awake. Ross made eye contact with Leon and said so he was finally awake. Mune added that her mother must be so happy to see him awake as she came to check on him every day. Leon couldn't believe it, thinking only a ghost would believe such a thing. Ross then asked Mune to go outside and play as she needed to speak with Leon. Once Mune left, Leon turned to Ross and asked if Mune was really their daughter. Ross confirmed it, saying Mune was our biological daughter. He asked why Ross, who hated him, had given birth to their child and saved him as well. She replied that he had been asleep for 2 years, and if he thought she could just forget what he did to her 2 years ago, he was mistaken. He asked if she thought he wanted to do it, and explained that they were different and couldn't coexist. He added that if it were any other time, he would never have touched her. She asked if touching her was also a form of torture for him. He agreed, and she used her tail to force him back onto the bed. As she climbed on top of him, he wondered what she intended to do. She tore his clothes, saying that she wanted to carve her own dragon pattern onto him. He begged her to stop. As she began the pattern on his chest, she told him it would become his shame. From that moment on, he would be her prisoner and would never be able to leave her. She wondered what his fellow humans would think when they saw the dragon tattoo on his body. Would they still view him as the great dragon-slaying hero, or would they see him as a traitor who had surrendered to the dragon clan? Lee even asked why she was going to such extremes. She asked if he still didn't understand, explaining that the dragon race's concept of revenge had always been a difficult issue for human dragon scholars to comprehend. Their revenge was inhumane, combining paranoia, extremism, and behavior beyond human understanding. She wanted him to live in shame for the rest of his life, to be humiliated by her every day. As the tattoo was finished, Leon felt something different. For Ross, it was a great honor to make Leon a slave of the Dragon Clan, and in a sense to make him her closest partner. She told him, "Let's get started." Though it was inconceivable from a human perspective, it was her revenge on the dragon slayer as a dragon. The scene shifted to the Silver Dragon Castle, where the gathered dragons noticed that their queen seemed to be in a good mood that day. One of them remarked on it, while another mentioned that it was because the queen's husband had woken up. Leon listened to their conversation, thinking about how Ross had actually announced to the public that he was her husband. They had no idea how terrifying the mother dragon was. She had squeezed him for an entire day and night, leaving his waist almost broken. He had no intention of staying there and becoming a plaything. Leaving the area, he wandered around the castle. Observing the guards, he noticed that 4 dragons were stationed at the side door, making it impossible to escape that way. But something felt off. Why were there so few guards in the Silver Dragon Castle that day? It was completely different from 2 years ago when he first arrived. The atmosphere was strange and eerily quiet. Just then, he noticed a hole and wondered if it could be a trap. However, he decided not to overthink it. He had to leave no matter what. If it was a trap, he would simply force his way out. As he began climbing inside, he thought of saying goodbye to Ross. Even though Mune was adorable, she could only belong to Ross for now. Mune, watching him, told her mother that Leon was digging a hole and that it looked really cool. Meanwhile, Ross, lying down nearby, casually remarked that Leon was truly amazing. Mune then asked when her mother would go to bring her father back. Ross placed her hand over Mune's mouth, telling her that using the word fishy back was rude. Mune, confused, asked what she should say instead. Ross replied that she should say catch him back. After some time, Leon was running through the forest, thinking that after climbing over the mountains, he would finally see the border of human territory. Once he had run so far, Ross surely wouldn't catch up with him. However, as he sold something, he suddenly saw Ross appear in her dragon form. He began running again, muttering that she was quite the runner. Ross stood in front of him, mentioning that it must be fun to play with him like this. She was so enormous compared to him and said she was very satisfied, never imagining it would go so smoothly. She reminded him that it was her who had helped him avoid the guards and left a hole for him to escape through. Leon replied that even if he knew it was a trap, he didn't have any other choice and didn't expect her to catch up with him so quickly. He wondered what would happen if he returned to human territory now, especially since she had marked him on the chest. Would they still recognize him as the Dragon Slayer? Ross replied that he would have to start over as an ordinary person, which was probably better than being tortured by her. She commented that he didn't know how to appreciate her kindness. With that, she grabbed him with her tail and flew away into the sky. He was surprised and wondered where she was taking him, but he didn't resist and just let her go. Ross replied that since he wanted to go back so badly, she was simply helping him. After 3 hours, they reached the border city of the Empire, where she released him, sending him tumbling into the branches of a tree and crashing to the ground. He got up, grumbling that hurts. As he looked ahead, he saw a human town and wondered if it was real. Ross, now in her human form, stood beside him and confirmed that it was indeed real. She asked if, seeing the long-lost human town, he felt like he could return to the human world by simply starting over. However, she reminded him that he couldn't return even if it seemed so close at hand. Suddenly, a strange pattern began to glow on both of them, and Leon found himself stuck to the tree. Ross casually stated that she had forgotten to tell him that when one of the two people with a dragon mark tries to make contact with the other, the dragon mark will react. She stepped closer to him, teasing that he was probably feeling hot all over, itching to get started and unable to bear the urge. He wondered if she really wanted to do it there in such an exposed place. Ross grinned and asked if he knew why she brought him there. She wanted him to understand the shame of doing such things so close to his hometown. Liam asked if she thought he would lose faith because of that. Grabbing her hand, he told her he would wait patiently for the right opportunity and then repay her double for all the humiliation she had put him through. Ross was initially surprised but then smiled and agreed. Stepping closer, she whispered that she would be waiting for him, whether he was alive or dead. Near the Empire border city, they both made out again. Afterward, Ross felt satisfied with his performance. Leon, lying down, was crying from the experience. She continued, suggesting that she would bring him back there every month to visit his hometown. Leon responded, telling her that she was a female dragon with her head in the clouds, always thinking about how she could drain him. Ross replied that he had seen through her, and with that, she spread her wings, preparing to leave. She mentioned that their daughter was waiting at home. Lionel asked her to wait and said that, as the dragon's slayer, he didn't want to be caught by her like prey and preferred to walk on his own. As he walked away, she reminded him that it would take at least 3 hours to fly to the Silver Dragon Castle at her speed, and for a human, it would take at least 10 days or half a month to walk there. He told her not to underestimate the endurance of humans. She smirked, saying that she wanted to see how long he could hold out. After a while, Leon took a long, tired breath. Ross wondered if he couldn't walk anymore. He denied it, saying he wasn't tired. However, he admitted that the only thing bothering him was his mouth. As Leon was about to say something, they heard a noise and saw the Demon Slayer army patrolling nearby. Leon thought it was great. They might be able to help him get rid of Ross. However, he quickly stopped himself, realizing that if he called for help, Ross would surely kill them all without hesitation. Just then, a man halted his horse and looked at them both, wondering if they were lost. Liam denied it, explaining that they were just hanging out and he didn't want to involve innocent people. The man dismounted and said it wasn't a safe place to hang out as there were many dangerous creatures and wild animals. He offered them a ride. He then introduced himself as Walker, the captain of the 47th Quadrant of the Imperial Dragon Slayer Army. He added that while they were both kind-hearted, the South Indian forest was harsh. It would be wise for them to learn some self-defense to protect themselves. Leon, however, thought it best not to let Walker get any closer. Walker, eyeing Leon, remarked that Leon seemed familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Ross, about to attack, raised her hand. Leon quickly realized it wouldn't end well and grabbed her hand, pulling her towards him. He then explained to Walker that he had mistaken Leon for someone else. Leon had a popular face and even his wife often misrecognized him. Leon agreed to go back with Walker obediently, thinking it would help him get rid of them for now. Walker understood what they were doing and said he wouldn't interrupt their love. With that, the army left the area. Ross told Leon to let go of her, and surprised, he pushed himself back. She mentioned that he was smart not to ask for help, but now he had to figure out his own position. Even though they had children, that didn't mean she was his wife. Liam replied that he had never thought of being her husband. She told him to get moving as there was still a long way to go. However, Leon felt uneasy. Looking at his hand, he suddenly fainted. Ross muttered that he was a fragile human being. She then shifted into her dragon form and gently placed him on her back. Taking off, she flew away, telling him she would take his condition as a plea for mercy. Leon woke up in the dragon castle to find Mune standing next to him, saying that he was awake. He sat up, wondering how he had ended up there. Mune replied that her mother had brought him back. Leon wondered if Ross had finally caught him like prey. Noticing the bandages on his hand, Mune grabbed his hand, proudly saying that she had bandaged him and acted as if expecting praise. Leon thought back to what the Dragon Logistics once said, that dragons were a ferocious race, spending their entire lives involved in violence and bloodshed since childhood. Despite Mune clearly having dragon characteristics, she had shown no hostility toward him and treated him like a father. He wondered if this was because she was a human-dragon hybrid. He patted her on the head and said she was awesome. Then, leaning in closer, he added that she was cute now, but when she grew up, she didn't have to be like her mother. Just then, Ross entered and asked what a strong being like her daughter was doing. Leon, shocked, quickly dismissed it, saying it was nothing. News showed Ross the bandage and proudly told her that she had done it according to the instructions. Ross responded that it was exactly what Mune should do. Leon felt like Ross was a strict mother and then suggested to Mune to hide in the garden. and you will find her when he count to 100. Moon got excited, thrilled that her father wanted to play hide and seek with her. Leon smiled and explained that he wasn't like Ross, and then he began counting. Moon, running off, asked him not to count so quickly. As she left, Leon turned to Ross and asked, wasn't she being too hard on Moon? Ross sat down and replied that all dragons went through such training. She explained that being strict with their children from a young age was the only way to cultivate strong warriors. He mentioned that many were not entirely dragons, and besides, she was so cute. Could Ross really bear that? Ross replied that Moon was a dragon and cute was a derogatory term when referring to a dragon. Leon remarked that Ross was also cute. Moon grabbed his collar, saying that he was merely a slave to her, used to vent her anger, so he should stop getting ahead of her. He showed a sad expression, and she mentioned that it was good he understood. She was the queen of the Silver Dragon clan, and had many government affairs to handle, so the responsibility of taking care of Moon fell to him. She got closer and said it was as if they dragon slayers were responsible for looking after the children. He saw her hiding there, reacting like a father. He thought she was still too naive and wondered if she really thought she couldn't be found if she hid behind him. He pointed toward her, saying that he had found her. When she didn't react, he wondered if she was angry. He apologized for making her wait. Without saying anything, Moon started running away, and he wondered why she was running. He saw that she was gone, but caught a glimpse of her passing by. He thought it was truly hard to predict the mood of a child, and no wonder Ross had given him the task of taking care of her. Moon came from behind and hugged him, saying she had caught him. He was surprised and asked, didn't she just run past him? She denied it, saying that he couldn't find her, so she came to look for him. He wondered if he had been mistaken. She then took him to show him something. There, another girl who looked just like Moon was watching them both, looking angry. They were both sitting in the garden near a small stream, and Moon was busy drawing something. Watching her, Leon thought that having a daughter was a wonderful thing. It felt as if his soul had been healed. Sooner or later, he would help her escape from the clutches of the mother dragon. Moon soon approached him, holding up a family portrait she had drawn. He praised her, saying she was truly talented and worthy of being his daughter. However, when he looked closely, he noticed that she had drawn 2 children. Curious, he asked why. Moon replied that it was her sister. Leon was shocked to hear this and suddenly realized that he had not just hit the target with 1 shot, but had actually hit twice. The child he had seen in the garden earlier was the other girl, and he had mistakenly called her by the wrong name. That must have been why she got angry. But Moon corrected him, saying that her sister hadn't been angry. She had only been a little shy when she saw their father. Leon reasoned that it was probably because they hadn't seen each other much, so it was natural for them to be unfamiliar. Still, he couldn't help but blame Ross for hiding the second girl from him. He needed to confront her and demand the truth. Meanwhile, in her study room, Ross was examining a letter, while a small dragon flew around her. Just then, Leon entered the room, calling her name, which made the dragon surprised. Ross asked where Moon was. Leon replied that she had gone to play with her sister, then added that Ross was really good at hiding things. He pointed out that she had been about to tell him about the older daughter. Ross asked if he didn't already know about her. Leon thanked her, acknowledging that giving birth to a child was hard work, and he hadn't expected her to give birth to 2 children for him. He said she had worked so hard, and that when he returned to the Empire someday, he would make sure to include her name in their family tree. Ross looked at him and asked if he truly understood why she hadn't told him about the eldest daughter. Leon thought she might be jealous of his closeness to Moon, which was why she had deliberately kept the second girl from meeting him as her father. Ross asked if he was so eager to meet Noah. Leon replied that it was nonsense. Who wouldn't want to meet their daughter? He wasn't like her, a cold and stern mother. He wanted to cultivate a good relationship with Noah. Ross warned him not to regret it later. The scene then shifted to the kitchen, where Leon was preparing food. He believed that cooking was the first step in getting closer to his daughter by feeding her delicious food. He thought back to the times he used to make cream stew for the team. Everyone who had tasted it found it delicious, and the sweet flavor was perfect for children. He thought to himself that his cooking skills hadn't rusted, and the taste would surely win Noah over. He remembered Moon telling him that Noah loved the food her father cooked the most. Outside, 2 maids were watching him, and one of them remarked that the prince had just recovered from a serious illness, yet here he was cooking for his family. It was a sign of a good male dragon who truly cared for his family. Just then, Ross entered with her 2 children and ordered the maids to go ahead and enjoy the rest of their evening, without worrying about the dinner for Ross and her family. The maids bowed and thanked her before leaving, and Ross entered the dining area. Leon was preparing dinner and remarked that they had finally arrived. Moon smelled the food and said it smelled really nice. He replied that he had heard they loved meat, so he made both stew and steak especially for them. He wondered if Noah could sense he was her father. However, he noticed she was looking outside, and he couldn't help but feel that her reaction was different from what he had expected. He realized that Ross had likely anticipated this situation, which was why she hadn't allowed him to meet Noah until now. Ross then told Noah that it was their first formal meeting, suggesting she introduce herself. Noah agreed and approached Leon, introducing herself as the eldest daughter of the Silver Dragon Queen, currently 1 year and 2 months old. Leon bent down to her level and introduced himself as her father. He even took a step forward to greet her politely, hoping to make a good impression, but she remained cold, and Leon wondered if she held a grudge against him. Mune encouraged Noah to speak more and not make her father feel embarrassed. Noah, however, remarked that Leon seemed so weak. Was he really her father? Those words struck him brutally, and he thought to himself that she was indeed a filial daughter. They also had dinner together, and he thought the family dinner was supposed to be the best occasion for the members to talk and communicate. However, it turned out to be a most tormenting moment for Leon. Mune asked Noah to cut her food as well. While Noah was doing so, Leon asked her if she liked the taste of the food. She replied that it was disgusting, which stung him. Ross just smirked, and Mune asked the reason for her response. Ross replied that it was because Leon had finally reunited with the family, and seeing him happy made her naturally happy. Then she asked Leon why he wasn't smiling. He pretended to smile and said he was happy to be with his family. When Mune asked him if he would have dinner with them daily, Leon thought he didn't want to eat with him every day. Suddenly, Noah declined the idea. When Mune asked for a reason, Noah replied that she wanted to study at the Young Dragon Department of St. Health Academy. Ross remarked that the Young Dragon Department was full of dragons around 4 and 5 years old, so he wondered why Noah was so eager to enroll. Noah simply replied that she wanted to defeat more dragon slayers. Leon coughed upon hearing this, thinking it seemed like she wanted to defeat her own father. Then he mentioned that the dragon slayers were all very brave, and since she was still young, she might get hurt. She replied that she wasn't a little girl. Ross said that Noah's idea was good because the sooner they learned the skills, the sooner they could fight against the dragon slayers. He asked Leon if that wasn't right and if he had any reason to stop Noah from going to school. Leon thought that if he continued to oppose it, Noah would surely resent him as a father even more. He realized he could only change her mind subtly, so he agreed with Noah going to school and finally understood that Ross wanted to use Noah to mentally attack him during dinner. He grew angry and thought that Ross would regret it later. Ross told Noah that since her father had agreed, it was happily decided. He mentioned that the entrance test for St. Health Academy would be held in a month, and during that time, Leon would help Noah prepare. Noah agreed. After dinner, Mune told Noah that her belly was round. As Ross was leaving, Leon called her, mentioning that the place hadn't been cleaned yet. She replied that the servants could take care of it. He said that after dinner, the couple should clean up and wash the dishes together, as that was the correct way to end a family dinner. Didn't she want to create a harmonious and kind atmosphere in front of their kids, even if it was just for show? Ross looked at Mune, who was eagerly looking forward to eating, and she agreed. Mune said she would help as well. But Noah pulled her away, asking her to wait and wondering where they were going. As Mune cleaned the dishes, she asked when Leon was going to help. Leon asked if she had forgotten what he had told her years ago, that she should never be alone with a highly trained and powerful dragon slayer. She wondered what he meant by that. He replied that before he had traveled a long distance and was exhausted, so he had been controlled and played with her dragon pattern. But now things were different. She then tried to attack him with her tail, telling him not to think he could escape by using that trick. He stopped her tail with his hand, asking who said he was going to run away. Just then, the pattern on her body glowed and she felt something different. As she sank to her knees, he asked if she was unable to do anything. The dragon pattern made her tail extremely sensitive, and when it was pinched, she felt like a kitten being pinched by the back of the neck, weak and powerless. This was new knowledge he had discovered from her dragon book. Dragons were eager to conquer and control everything, but had she ever truly been conquered? They both entered a room, and as he grabbed her tail, she asked him to let it go. He mentioned that from the day he woke up, she had trampled on his dignity and treated him as a toy for entertainment. He then asked what she thought about them switching things up that night. She became angry and referred to him as a bastard. They heard a sound from outside where a maid was telling another that she wondered if the queen's time with her family was over. They entered the room quietly, realizing it was all clear. Leon wondered if it was the prince who had caused this. Leon and Ross were hiding in the room and he asked her to be quiet, not wanting to be discovered by the maids outside. He noted how the queen, who had once been so high and mighty, had now become like this. As the maids left, Leon grabbed Ross's face, telling her to let's get started. The scene shifted 3 days later, where Leon was lying on the bed with Noah and Mune sitting next to him. Mune asked if her father hadn't woken up for 3 days, was he dead? Noah told her to wait and see, then used her leg to hit his face. Leon groaned in pain, mentioning how much it hurt. Noah replied that he wasn't dead yet. Leon wondered if there was anyone who treated their father like this. Just then, Mune called out to Ross, telling her that their father was awake again. He wondered when he had fainted again. She wondered if he needed her help to recall. Then he remembered that after that night, the dragon pattern had been invalidated and he had been hit hard by her. She had been so cruel, and if he were an ordinary person, he would have died several times under her claws. If they looked closely at her, She was such a beautiful woman, but in reality she was over 200 years old. Moon wondered why her father wasn't moving. Noah guessed that he was just looking at their mother and was stunned. Just then, a brooch fell from the table and Ross's hand brushed against it. Leon picked it up and placed it on Ross's head, saying that it suited her quite well. She mentioned that she hadn't expected him to be so considerate and then asked if he had done this for other women as well. He folded his hands and mentioned that when he was a kid, he used to comb the hair of his master's donkey and was quite skilled at it. Moon then asked what a donkey was. Leon replied that donkeys were similar to dragons, about 2 years old with a tail. They were stubborn, liked to hum when they were unhappy, and were just like Ross. Suddenly, Ross hit him in the belly, and he grabbed his stomach. Moon asked if he was okay, and he agreed. Ross then told Noah that her task for the day was to learn how to write her name, and her father would teach her. Leon shouted that Ross had assigned him a task again without asking for his permission. Moon was happy that her father would teach them how to write. Noah mentioned that she could already write. Moon grabbed Noah's hand and suggested they go to the study room to find a pen with nice colors, asking which color Noah preferred. Noah replied that she wanted purple. Ross then told Leon that her sister was coming the same day and she didn't want Leon to appear in front of her. Leon was surprised and asked if she didn't want him to meet her family as well. She stepped closer and explained that he was now a male dragon who had married into the Silver Dragon clan. He had been in a coma for 2 years due to some illness and had just woken up recently. She added that if they had to meet, he would have to go along with the identity she had made up. He agreed with her, and as she left, he wondered if she thought he would obediently follow her wishes. He was planning to embarrass her in front of her sister. The scene shifted to the children's study room of the Silver Dragon Castle, where Leon was teaching both of his daughters. He told them to simply follow what he taught and watch carefully. He had them eat and write their names, showing them the process of writing and asking them to imitate it by writing a few times. Moon seemed excited, but on the other hand, Noah didn't appear happy. She took the note and remarked that it wasn't as good as what her mother had written. Moon asked what he was going to do now. Liam mentioned that he had forgotten to give something to Ross, so he was going to give it to her and would come back to check on them later. As he was leaving, Noah wondered if he was stupid. Moon replied that Noah seemed somehow happy. Noah denied it and quickly asked her to get down to writing. The scene shifted to the Silver Dragon Castle gate, where Aisha, the Red Dragon Queen, arrived. Ross rushed to hug her, saying it had been a long time since they'd met. Isha commented that Ross looked much rosier than before. Ross replied that she hadn't thought so. Then Isha mentioned that she had heard Ross's husband had woken up, so why hadn't she been able to see him? Ross replied that he wasn't feeling well that day, so Isha wouldn't be able to meet him for the time being. Isha wondered if that was the case and said it was a pity. She also mentioned that she wanted to see what the Dragon King, who had kidnapped her sister, looked like. The Dragon King's bonds were all about profit and clan, with no lives involved. But Ross and the man in her family got married and had a child at lightning speed, so their relationship must be very good. Ross blushed, turning her face away, and wondered if being married and having children really meant they were in a good relationship. She wondered if Isha wasn't attracted to him and never would be, even in the future. Isha teased that Ross still liked to be tough as before. Ross agreed and suggested that since it had been a while since they last met, they should go to the garden and chat for a while. Meanwhile, Leon was watching them through a telescope, trying to see how far the dragon pattern could reach. Isha told Ross that the Dragon Clan had been a little unstable lately, especially the Red Flame Dragon King, who had been very active recently. Ross wondered if it was Constantine and remarked that he hadn't been seen in years. Isha shrugged, saying that who knew with him? He was a hot-tempered guy and maybe he wanted to take the opportunity to expand his territory. Just then, Ross's dragon pattern activated. When Isha saw it, she asked what was wrong. Ross replied that it was nothing and asked Isha to continue. Isha continued that they needed to strengthen the border defense, and she would also send Xinlong to contact Ross if there were any new developments. Ross thought to himself that the effect of the dragon pattern was getting stronger and stronger, and wondered what would happen if it continued like this. Isha noticed his face and asked what was wrong, as his face had turned red. Ross replied that she had suddenly reminded him of something urgent to deal with, and she would be back in 20 minutes. Isha agreed and asked if Ross wanted her company as well. Ross replied that there was no need for it. Isha glanced at the dragon pattern and commented that young people were playing around with it. Meanwhile, Leon was lying down on a chair, thinking that he wanted to see how long Ross could endure it. She arrived and called out to him, wondering how he had returned so soon. She grabbed his collar, accusing him of deliberately choosing that time to make the dragon pattern resonate, making her embarrass herself in front of her sister. Leon thought he would pretend to be innocent and deceive her, but then he wondered if it was wrong for him to want her. She pulled away from him, her face completely red. Liam understood that it had worked. At least now she was embarrassed by him. She scolded him, saying it was shameless for a defeated prisoner to speak such rubbish, and told him to put away his dirty thoughts. She thought to herself that she had clearly come there to deal with him, so why did she get flustered by just a few words from him? She mentioned that he was lucky this time, but if he did it again, she wouldn't let him get away with it. As she was leaving, he made a teasing face. He commented that one dirty word could make her so helpless and that she was truly powerful. But he wondered why, when he thought of her face, his heart started beating so fast. He grabbed her by the arm, telling her to wake up and stop thinking nonsense. The kids were still waiting for him in the study room, so he had to go back there. Meanwhile, Myun, feeling sleepy, wondered if her father had returned yet. At night in the Silver Dragon Castle, Isha was about to leave when Ross came to the door and told her to be careful on the road. Isha transformed into her dragon form and told Ross to let her meet her husband next time. Ross agreed and Isha left. After she left, Ross thought to herself that she still hadn't taught Leon a lesson, and she was determined to do so now. Leon was casually reading a book when he sneezed, wondering if Ross had scolded him for something. He then noticed that both of his daughters had already fallen asleep. He gently covered them with a blanket to make sure they wouldn't catch a cold. Just as he was about to open the door to leave, Ross appeared and asked where he was going. He inquired if Isha had already left. Ross replied that they still had things to do, and then she took him away. Leon was reluctant but followed. The scene shifted to Ross's bedroom, where she asked Leon to bring her hot water and wondered why she wanted it. He mentioned that she must be exhausted after walking all day and asked her to let him tend to her feet. She told him to stop talking nonsense and do as she told him, explaining that this was a punishment for his actions earlier that day. Reluctantly, Leon began cleaning her feet, thinking to himself that he was a dragon slayer, but was now reduced to a foot-washing servant for a female dragon. She really knew how to enjoy herself, and Leon couldn't help but wonder how many dragon slayers' corpses her feet had trampled over. She noticed him staring at her feet and wondered if he had some disgusting habit. She placed her feet in the water, and as she felt the heat, she kicked him back. Then she placed her feet on his body, wondering if he was trying to take revenge on her on purpose. He asked her and ordered him to wash her feet. She mentioned that it seemed he still hadn't learned his lesson and never imagined that a dragon would step on him. She then stepped on his private parts to make him feel it and asked him to stop. Leon felt both humiliated and strangely comfortable. She wondered how long he could endure it. He thought to himself that he couldn't succumb to her tyranny. He suddenly grabbed her leg and said he had eaten pigs, cows, and goats' trotters, but he had never tasted a dragon's trotter. She wondered what he was doing, and he bit it, saying that the snack of the night was raw dragon claw. She became enraged and threatened to kill him. The next day, when they met their daughters, Myun asked Ross why she was limping. Ross replied that it was nothing. Myun then turned to Leon and asked why there were bruises on his face. He also replied that it was nothing. Myun, confused, then said that she understood her parents were playing some fun games without telling her and she wanted to join them. The scene shifted to the garden outside the Silver Dragon Castle, where Leon and Ross were walking together. Two maids spotted them and one commented that they seemed to be on a date. The other maid agreed, saying that they looked like a lovely couple, but she felt they didn't seem very familiar with each other. Leon wondered why things had become this way. He recalled his conversation with Ross just moments earlier, where he had asked why he had to go on a walk with her. She had replied that it was also his job to maintain the false appearance of family harmony in front of outsiders. Leon thought there was something off about her. She wasn't usually this proactive, and he couldn't help but wonder what she was planning. Meanwhile, Myun and Noah were watching them from behind a tree. Myun remarked that their father was foolish for not even being able to hold Ross's hand. She decided to intervene and help, but Noah asked her to wait and leave them alone. Myun, however, couldn't resist calling out to them. Leon turned around and wondered why Myun was following him. Without hesitation, he took both of their hands and joined them together, telling them that when they were taking a walk, they should hold hands. After that, Myun ran off, saying she was going to play with Noah. Leon watched her go, wondering where she had learned such knowledge. As Myun reached Noah, Noah pulled her cheeks, and Myun immediately promised not to do that again, asking him to let go. Leon commented that it was a bit unexpected and wondered what he should do. Ross replied that it was fine, and they could continue holding hands like that. As they walked together, Leon remarked that Ross seemed unusually docile that day, and he felt a bit uncomfortable with it. Ross mentioned that it seemed their daughters had been tamed by her, and now when she was getting along with him, he wasn't used to it. Leon thought that she had always carried herself as a queen in front of others, but he hadn't expected her to be swayed by something as small as holding hands. He wondered if her strictness as a mother was simply because she didn't know how to get close to her children. He then mentioned that their daughters always called Ross mother in front of her. Ross asked if there was a problem with that. Liam explained that typically, children call their father and their mother mom, but their daughters called him father while addressing her as mother. Didn't that make her seem more distant from them? Ross wondered if there was really such a big difference between mother and mom. Liam agreed and suggested that she let their daughters call her mom. He bet that they would surely feel closer to her if they did. Ross agreed to try it next time, then suddenly quickened her pace. Liam wondered why she was walking so fast all of a sudden. She asked if he was homesick. Leon questioned why she was asking that all of a sudden, and Ross replied that she wouldn't let him go back anywhere. While she couldn't make him go home, she mentioned there was something that might help ease his homesickness a bit. She took him to the castle warehouse and told him that she hadn't given it a name. As she opened the door, she casually mentioned that he could call it a warehouse, a utility room, or whatever. It didn't matter. They both entered, and Leon wondered if it was a dragon's treasure trove. He spotted a bracelet and commented that if it were placed in the Empire, it could be sold for at least hundreds of thousands of gold coins. Ross revealed that the bracelet had been given to her by her grandmother when Ross was a child. In addition to the spoils, there were also things that held personal meaning for her. Leon mentioned that he hadn't heard her talk much about her other family members aside from her sister. Ross explained that she had never met her parents and she and her sister had been raised by their grandmother. Leon sympathized, telling her that it was similar to his own story. He had been abandoned at an orphanage and never met his parents, eventually being adopted by his master's family. Then he asked Ross why she had taken him to show him this place. She opened a chest and said that she had something that might help him temporarily forget his troubles. Leon wondered if it was the black gold armor. Ross confirmed that it was, mentioning that he had always wanted to get it back. Leon was excited and wondered if she was really going to give it to him. She agreed with a different smile, and as Leon touched the armor, it began to glow. He wondered if it was enchanted with a dragon mark. He couldn't help but think about how the black gold armor had come to be in this condition. Ross placed her hand on his shoulder and remarked that he had finally fallen into the trap. He wondered what she had just done. Ross explained that she had seen the dragon pattern on the surface of his armor, which enhanced its properties. The moment he touched it, the pattern would activate. Leon chastised himself for being so careless. Ross mentioned that the enhanced dragon pattern would double its effects and wondered if he could handle it. He struggled, finding it hard to even call her name, and soon collapsed, thinking that he couldn't move his body, though the urge in his lower body was stronger than ever. Ross lay down on top of him and asked if he thought she had no grudge against him for conquering her before. She confessed that over the past few days, she had been plotting her revenge and figuring out how to make him lower his guard. However, she didn't expect him to fall for it so easily. She then asked how her acting was. Leon wondered if everything she had told him that day was a lie. The story about never meeting her parents, letting Myun call her mother, and holding hands. Ross assured him that all of it was true, but it didn't change the task she was about to carry out. She began to remove her dress and asked what he had told her before, whether he liked the idea of conquering. She agreed with that notion, calling him her husband, and asked if he was ready. After some time, when they had finished, Leon was crying and thinking that it was finally over. Ross looked at his face and he wondered what she was doing. She remarked that, compared to 2 years ago, the scars on his face had faded a bit, but he now appeared more haggard, as if life had taken its toll, giving him the air of a mature man. Leon managed to free himself and said that she was trying to play tricks on him again, but he wouldn't fall for it a second time. Ross acknowledged that he had become smarter, but his health wasn't as good as it used to be, and he wasn't in the same condition anymore. Her words hit him hard, and he screamed out loud. The next day, Ross and Noah arrived at the door of Leon's room. Ross greeted him, commenting that it seemed like he hadn't slept well last night. Leon replied that it was all because of what she had said. She responded that she didn't remember saying anything like that. Noah, observing the situation, thought to himself that it had started again. Ross then mentioned that the entrance exam to St. Health Academy was very strict and that Leon should start tutoring Noah on dragon knowledge. She stepped closer and told him that for now, he could only demonstrate his value in other areas. Leon replied that he hadn't been in good form the day before, but now he was ready to have Noah take the test. However, at the same time, he intended to use this opportunity to exchange something of equal value from Ross. Ross agreed to his request, but made it clear that his request couldn't be too excessive. Leon said that a promise was a promise. Ross was leaving and reminded him to study hard, asking Noah not to get too tired. Leon, irritated, watched her go. Noah then asked that why do we always quarrel with Mom? Leon responded that it was just daily communication, but suddenly he realized what Noah had called Ross. He knelt down to her level and asked if Ross had asked her to change the name she called her by and whether Noah preferred the old name or the current one. Noah replied that she preferred the current one. Leon smiled and said that he agreed, knowing they would both love it. Noah, eager, asked when they could start studying. Leon told her to wait for him. The scene shifts to the children's study room, where Leon was reading a book. Ross approached him, mentioning that it was already late, but he still hadn't gone to sleep. Leon explained that Noah had a strong ability to learn and comprehend, so simple teaching methods were not suitable for her. This was why he was planning to organize some key knowledge points and combine them with test questions to teach her. Currently, he could only stay up late to prepare the lesson plans. Noah was a very smart child, so he was confident that she could pass the test by the middle of the month. Ross said it was inevitable after all. Noah followed his instructions. Leon replied that it wasn't necessarily true, as he was a genius in playing dragons. He graduated at the top of his class every year. excelling in both written and practical exams, and received the highest level scholarships at school. He then asked what champion were Ross. Ross thought for a moment. She had always believed that he was a reckless man who only knew how to fight and kill, but she didn't realize that he was also a top student. She mentioned that he was so powerful and asked how he had become her prisoner. Leon replied that he lost that one time, and that one misstep could lead to eternal regret. A tiger in troubled times can be bullied by a dragon. Ross told Leon that he was afraid of being ridden by a dragon. She noticed a chili pepper nearby and wondered what Leon was going to do with it. He explained that he had taken it from the kitchen to refresh himself. As he was about to eat it, she asked him to wait, explaining that it was dragon's yellow paper, and she was afraid he wouldn't be able to bear it since he was human. But before she could stop him, he ate it and immediately found it unbearably spicy, as if he were breathing out flames. He wandered around the room looking for water, but found none. Ross grabbed his face, telling him that her hands were cooler and would make him feel more comfortable. Both of their faces turned red, and Leon thought her fingerprints were icy cold. The place where they were touching felt soothing, neither sharp nor irritating like eyes, but a gentle, comforting coldness. After a moment of relaxation, he reached out for her hand, but as she pulled it back, they both felt embarrassed. Ross was about to leave, reminding him to go to bed early and not eat too much chili. If his mouth got too spicy, he would have to teach Noah using sign language. Leon agreed, but as he thought about it, he found himself wishing for more of her touch. Then he snapped out of his thoughts, realizing she was the evil dragon who had tricked him into a small corner, squeezed him relentlessly, and finally left him saying he didn't have enough strength. Just thinking about it made him feel a little embarrassed, as if his thoughts were somewhat perverted. Leon needed to find a way to help his body recover quickly. As he was going through a book, he found something useful. The red dragon fruit had the effect of regulating ki and blood, but that wasn't what he was looking for. Then he read about lotus grass, which when taken internally could regulate digestive function and when applied externally could treat injuries. But still, that wasn't what he needed. The next day he told Noah that the test she had just taken had been graded and the full score was 100. He asked how much she thought she might have gotten. Noah guessed 50, and Leon replied, "It's 62 points, higher than she expected." She didn't seem happy with the result, and Leon wondered if she was dissatisfied with her grades, perhaps holding herself to high standards. She should be carefree like Moon, but instead she had taken the initiative to study and go to school. He patted her head, appreciating that she had gotten 62 points on her first try. Noah thanked him, and Leon suggested they focus on the mistakes. He coughed a bit, then apologized, wondering if he had eaten too much last night since his throat felt so itchy. Noah recalled Ross's words mentioning that Leon had made a study plan for her last night. Although Leon might seem unreliable, he was after all a top student. She also remembered that Leon had eaten the Dragon Clan's extra spicy yellow paper last night to stay awake, so it wasn't surprising that his throat was irritated. Noah then handed him something and wondered what it was. She told him it was something her mother had given him last. Leon asked Noah to thank Ross for it. He thought to himself that Noah, like Ross, appeared cold on the outside but wasn't good at expressing her kindness. Feeling more active, Leon said, "Let's start learning again." After everything, Leon was in the kitchen when the maids came in to deliver the herbs he had requested. He asked them to place them there and thought to himself that he had specifically asked for extra herbs so they wouldn't guess what he was planning to do. The medicinal materials needed to prepare dragon grade force were quite common, and the process of refining seemed straightforward. However, even with that, the book mentioned that even the most skilled pharmacists of the Dragon Clan had a low chance of successfully concocting dragon grade force. First, they had to grind and mix the herbs they planned to use and then put them into the pot to boil with water. Liam continued with the process, but after a few hours, he failed once again. He muttered, "It's not that easy." Frustrated, he mentioned that he had followed the instructions in the book several times, but each time he failed at the last step, drug purification and separation. The high-temperature separation method described in the book was tricky. If the temperature was too high, the drug would be inactivated. If it was too low, it wouldn't properly purify the drugs. Achieving the desired separation effect just by shaking it manually was impossible. Professional instruments were needed for the task. The master often said that if one method didn't work, it was important to look for another way. Leon wondered if there was any other effective method to separate the medicinal residue. As he looked out the window, he noticed it was thundering and rain was coming soon. He approached the window to watch the storm and remembered his teacher's words in alchemy class, where they had discussed how electrolysis of impurities sometimes had a higher success rate than roasting with fire. An idea struck him. He could try using the thunder element, which hadn't been mentioned in the book. He was particularly skilled in lightning magic, and though he had only recovered a bit of his power, it would still be more than enough for this delicate manipulation. Half an hour later, he succeeded and murmured to himself that the Dragon Clan's medicine was quite simple to make. Mew came over, asking what he was making. Leon, surprised to see her there, replied that it was something special. He then patted her head, saying it was nothing, and closed the box, placing the medicine inside. Noon curiously asked if it was candy. He explained that it was medicine he had made for Ross. Noon wondered if Ross was sick. Leon quickly denied it, explaining that Ross had been so busy recently, so he was preparing something to help nourish her, and that Noon didn't need to worry. Noon told him to take good care of Mom. Leon responded that it was what a father should do. He thought to himself that he would really take good care of her once he had the chance. Outside, it was raining heavily. Leon lay down on his bed, wondering if, although the dragon-grade force had been cultivated, the Dragon Clan's nutritional supplements might have a negative effect on humans. He decided to set that concern aside for now. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door and entered. Leon found that it was Ross and asked why she had come. She explained that she had heard from Mew that he had made medicine that looked like chocolate candy to help regulate her body. Leon was surprised that the news had spread so quickly. Ross reassured him, telling him not to be nervous. She wasn't there to question him or anything, but was surprised that he could make the medicine in such a simple environment. She walked closer and asked if he could show her what he had refined. Leon replied that if he said no, she would probably use force to take it away. As she looked at the medicine, she commented that it was impressive that he was able to refine such perfect dragon-grade force under these conditions. Leon was surprised, wondering why she wasn't laughing at him. She told him that he could keep it, but he can't take the medicine right now, and handed it back to him. He asked her why. She mentioned that the tonic for the dragon rays was too potent for the human body. He wondered how the medicine could be so powerful. She explained that she was simply reminding him that, as a human, he couldn't withstand its strength. He questioned why, having defeated countless dragon kings, he couldn't handle a small pill, and told her not to underestimate him. He took it, claiming that its power was the courage of humankind. Suddenly, he felt uneasy, and Ross, who rarely used healing magic, became angry. She then asked how he was feeling and offered to try to break down the effects of the pill for him. Despite her efforts, he still felt pain. She instructed him not to move, and as blue rays surrounded him, he told her to look closely, saying it represented the courage and determination of mankind. He screamed in agony, lightning crackling around his body, and she wondered what was happening. Just as he seemed to faint, she quickly made him lie down, muttering that he was truly a madman. She stood up to leave, saying she would go fetch the court physician. However, he reached out and grabbed her tail, leaving her wondering how he had regained consciousness. He hugged her tail tightly, calling her wife, and asked where she was going. She felt a strange unease and asked who his wife was, trying to push him away and telling him to let her go. But he insisted, saying he didn't want to let her go and refused to release her. He continued rubbing his face against her tail, still calling her wife. She thought to herself that the dragon Great Force should only have enhanced his body, not caused these symptoms of unconsciousness. She wondered if it was the magic power of the lightning element that had altered the effects of the medicine. Despite his odd behavior, she reasoned that his life wasn't in danger for now. He kept calling her wife, and she asked him what was wrong. To her surprise, he said he wanted a second child. She was stunned by his request. Acting like a child, he tugged at her tail and explained that he hadn't taken good care of the 2 children from his first pregnancy and now wanted another one. She was taken aback and told him to forget it. Leo insisted that he wanted his second child for sure. She thought that to avoid unnecessary complications, it might be best to simply go along with his words. She sighed and agreed, telling him that they wouldn't just have a second child, but a third and a fourth. He then mentioned that she would have to return to his hometown with him. She agreed, saying she would go back after they settled down. He was overjoyed, but she thought to herself that he was becoming even more annoying than usual. In his happiness, he tried to kiss her, calling her so nice. She pushed him away, denying that he could take advantage of the situation. She wondered when the effects of the medicine would wear off. Frustrated, she punched him, calling him an idiot, but then she regretted her actions, wondering why she couldn't be more patient with him. She asked if he was feeling okay, to which he admitted that he felt a bit uncomfortable. She thought to herself that this wasn't good. Why had the dragon pattern activated at such a time? He moved her to lie down on the bed, sitting over her. She wondered what he was going to do next. He replied that he felt bad, hot all over, and his chest was itchy. She realized that the dragon pattern, mixed with the lightning element, had amplified his body's desire to reproduce, making it even stronger than before. He leaned in and smelled her hair, telling her it smelled so good, and that he liked it the most. She tried to push him back, telling him that her tail had been on the ground all day long, and that he didn't seem to mind it, so he should just get off her now. He placed a hand on her lips and told her she looked so beautiful in that moment. She still felt embarrassed, unsure of what was happening. His attitude had completely changed, and there was an intensity to his madness and passion that was hard to reject. Despite everything, she couldn't help but feel a small glimmer of expectation. He called her wife again, telling her she could help him. After a moment of hesitation, she agreed, for that night at least. That night passed with all sorts of inappropriate events, and the next morning, when he woke up, he found Ross lying next to him under the same blanket. She mentioned something to wake him up, and he was completely surprised to see her there. He also noticed that his entire body ached and his memory was a bit fragmented. He asked her what had happened the previous night. She, holding the blanket, asked if he really didn't remember anything. He reassured her that he hadn't forgotten, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something had gone wrong. He discovered numerous hickeys on her body and wondered if it had all been his doing. Worried, he asked for clarification, but she simply said that he had begged her to do it, calling it a hidden act and urging her to just go along with it one last time. He felt terrible, his guilt mounting, and asked for her forgiveness, but she cut him off, saying there was no need to apologize again. He now recalled that he had only used the dragon's great force to maintain his health and teach her a lesson. He hadn't expected it to be so effective. As he began putting on his clothes, he admitted that he might have gone too far the previous night and asked if he had hurt her. She replied that it was fine. He paused and, in a more serious tone, told her that now she would know whether he was in good health or not, and that she didn't need to keep reminding him in the future. She stared at him and he asked, what was it? Then she grabbed his face and said that she was so satisfied with his performance last night and she hoped he can keep doing that in the future. He was shocked, wondering if he had somehow ended up in the service industry. She mentioned something about the bed and changing the name, asking if he truly wanted it. He thought for a moment about the request he would like to make. He replied that he had thought of something, that perhaps they could send someone to the Empire to check on his master and his master's wife. Ross responded that the silver dragon wasn't particularly skilled at sneaking around, but if it was simply a visit, there shouldn't be any issues. He grew excited, ready to thank her, but then he composed himself and formally expressed his gratitude for her help. In the garden, as Mune played with blocks, Leon sat nearby. Mune suddenly asked if he was sick. Delighted by the question, he asked why she thought so. She explained that her mom had told her he had taken medicine on his own the day before and that men shouldn't admit when they're sick. Leon was taken aback and wondered how Ross could have told such things to a child. Didn't he still have some dignity? Mune then asked if he was still unwell, wondering if it was because the medicine hadn't worked or because he had taken too little. Leon responded that it would be rude to ask such things. She mentioned that his mouth was bleeding and tearfully said that she couldn't live without her dad, pleading with him not to die. He gently patted her head and reassured her that he was fine. Deep down, he thought it was no surprise that Mune was Ross's daughter. He always felt that she shared many similarities with her mother. Then Leon suggested making a new toy for her. Mune got excited, as she loved toys. He then created a Rubik's Cube, telling her she could twist it, so he handed it to her to try. As she played with it, Leon thought about the principles of simple mechanical light linkage he had learned in his alchemy mechanics class at school, using the data from textbooks. He imagined he could use that knowledge to take care of his own children and wondered if he had been born to be a babysitter. Suddenly, he felt something and turned his gaze away. Mune asked, "What's wrong?" He replied that it was nothing, but in his mind he thought he sensed the gaze of a dragon. He wondered if this was where Noah did her physical training. However, she hadn't come to join them, so he thought maybe he should make one for her as well. That night, while Mune was sleeping, Noah came to bed. She found the Rubik's Cube from her dad and noted that she didn't have much interest in such children's toys, but she was happy to receive it from him. She then took out a treasure box hidden beneath the bed. Mune, spying from the doorway, thought her sister had been acting a bit strangely lately, often hiding things in the box without telling her. After Noah left, Mune decided to take a look at what was inside the box. She found the Rubik's Cube that Leon had made, fragments of Leon's black and gold armor, and Noah's name written by Leon. Mune realized that everything in the box was connected to their father, and she understood just how much Noah cared for him. She also knew that Noah was keeping all these precious things to herself. The St. Health Academy was an aristocratic college within the Dragon clan known for its strict standards for admitting students. Family background played a crucial role in the assessment process. It was believed that whether the birth was asexual, oviparous, or the result of normal live birth by a couple, only a harmonious and loving family that embraced dragon ideals could qualify for admission. The academy would only accept students from such families. To create the illusion of a perfect, harmonious dragon family, the Silver Dragon Queen decided to organize a family outing and take a family photo together. This took place in Sky City, a place where many dragons gather, including Leon's family. Mune slid onto Ross and Leon was there to carry her. As he did, she asked, why didn't he turn into a dragon just now, and she wanted to see him transform. He smiled, thinking to himself that he was very good at slaying dragons, but that didn't mean he could become one. Noah wondered if Leon would ever transform into a dragon. Ross shifted into his human form and explained, Leon's body hasn't fully recovered yet, so he can't transform into a dragon for the time being. But once he recovers, he'll show them. Mune wished him a speedy recovery. He replied that he would try his best, though he felt it might be impossible. Ross then suggested they head into town, as they had things to do that day. Mune walked ahead, commenting on how many dragons were around. Noah asked her to slow down and not walk too fast. As Leon was shaking, Ross wondered if this was the first time Leon had seen so many dragons since waking up from his coma. He asked if Leon was scared. Leon responded with excitement, pointing out the benefits of dragons and mentioning that he was going to get rich. Ross couldn't help but worry about him unnecessarily. He then wondered how much money he could make if he brought them all back. They enter a photo studio, where the owner, an elderly woman, and a staff girl warmly welcomed the queen, expressing their pleasure in serving her family. Moon took Noah aside, commenting on how many dragon photos were displayed around the room. Liam turned to Ross and asked, "Isn't she the Silver Dragon Queen? Why was she here at a store taking photos in person?" Ross explained that the Dragon King of a tribe could only command people from his own tribe, but the dragons in Sky City didn't belong to any particular tribe. Liam poked fun at her, saying that her status as a queen seemed a bit low. She responded by using her sandal to tap him on the foot and walked ahead, teasing she was taller than him. The old lady mentioned that it was an honor to be able to take the family photo of the Silver Dragon Queen. Ross commented that everyone said the old lady's photography skills were unmatched among the dragon tribe, and it was their luck to have successfully made an appointment with her. The old lady then remarked on Leon's missing tail. Ross replied that Leon didn't like to show his tail, which was why he had chosen a tailless suit. The old lady reminded him of the time she had given him a fake tail to wear. Leon had jokingly responded that he would die before wearing it, as it was a matter of his dignity. The old lady guided Ross to pick a suit to wear, and the daughters followed her. After a while, Noah and Moon came out wearing beautiful dresses. When Leon appeared, Moon complimented him, saying he looked so handsome. The old lady also commented that the suit looked great on him, adding that he must have been very popular in the past. Liam responded that the last time he wore a formal dress was at his school graduation ceremony. He then turned to Noah and asked how he looked. Her face turned red as she replied that he was quite handsome. Leon gently patted his daughters on the head, saying their skirts were very cute. Then Ross came out and Moon complimented her as well. Leon blushed when he saw Ross, and when she asked what was wrong, he replied that she looked beautiful. Ross mentioned that it would be nice if Leon had a tail. However, he thought to himself that he would never wear a tail in his life. Moon then called them both over for the photo shoot. The old lady, ready with her camera, and announced it's time to take the pictures. She asked Ross and Leon to get closer, but they hesitated. After a moment, they finally struck a few poses, and the old lady snapped several pictures of them. She even commented that Ross and Leon looked like a real couple. The scene reminded Leon of his past, particularly his graduation ceremony. Back then, he had been surrounded by a lot of girls, some asking for a photo, others inviting him to dinner, and even a few giving him gifts. Leon had politely declined it all, telling them that he still had to return to care for his master's donkey, but he promised to join them next time. One of the men nearby had wondered aloud, did Leon get kicked in the head by a donkey? After the photo shoot, it was mentioned that the photos would take around 6 hours to develop. During that time, Ross and her family decided to stroll around the Sky City. As they were leaving, Mewan suggested to Noah that they should go take a look around. Leo told Ross that he never imagined he would one day be able to go shopping with her, and it felt incredibly new to him. She replied that it was all part of maintaining their family image, explaining that Noah took his entrance exam very seriously, and Leon had been working hard for almost a month, so it was good to relax occasionally. At a nearby stall, a teddy bear caught the attention of both Moon and Leon, who noticed it alongside Ross. Noah tried to win it but failed. A stall owner, noticing her frustration, told her that the game was intended for children and with a little more effort, she would truly be able to win it. Leon, seeing the game, remarked that it was a shooting game. Noah seemed frustrated as she couldn't hit the balloons to win the teddy bear. Leon thought that it made sense. In such games, one could only win if they could hit their target. Ross explained that the bullets of the toy gun were made of magical energy, requiring precise control of magic. It was indeed a bit difficult for Noah. Leon recalled seeing others play similar games at the human market before. The man asked them if they wanted to try, offering that if they hit all the balloons within 10 shots, they could take home a pair of dolls. He mentioned that even their daughters seemed to want them. Leon suspected that he had specifically let the kids try it, hoping to attract their parents and make more money. Leon then asked his daughters if they wanted to give it a try. Noah denied in frustration, and Moon also refused, feeling disappointed. Leon understood that they both actually wanted the dolls, so he asked the man to give him the 10 shots, with Ross agreeing to pay. The man agreed, and Leon took the gun, thinking that it had been a while since he had held one. The last time was during his time at the Dragon Slayer Academy. He took a few practice shots, and the man wondered if he had made modifications to the gun, thinking it would be difficult for anyone to hit the target. Leon then hit 5 targets in a row, leaving the man stunned and wondering how it was possible. Leon explained that he had used his first shot to adjust the sight, but didn't expect to hit the target afterward. He considered it lucky. Ross, along with their daughters, praised him for his skill. The man handed over the pair of dolls, acknowledging Leon's accuracy. Leon decided it was time to leave, taking the dolls with him. He handed them to his daughters, who thanked him gratefully. Ross reflected that although Leon was often a bit off-key every time he got serious, he possessed a special charm. She then realized that he was looking at her. After some time, a child told her mother that she wanted the same doll as the one the lady had. It was Ross who was holding a large doll. Leon asked Ross if she had noticed the miserable expression on the unscrupulous businessman's face at the end, feeling as though he had finally rid himself of his anger. Ross replied that if she were in his position, she would advise them not to waste their time on such a childish game. Leon responded that they had come out to have fun, so it was good that they were enjoying themselves. He then asked if she didn't like it. She clarified that she didn't say that, and Leon replied that he couldn't let her leave empty-handed if they were there. Ross thought that while bears were just unappetizing food not even good enough to fill their stomachs when made into toys, they were cute. Ross then said, as they were leaving, that after dinner, he had to come to her room. Leon was surprised to hear this. Later, after dinner, Leon walked down the corridor, thinking about how Ross had invited him to her room. It was late at night, and he was alone. Something was bound to happen if he went to her room. If he went, he would feel uncomfortable for the night, but if he didn't, he would feel uncomfortable for a week. It felt as if he was about to face some kind of confrontation with her. When he went to knock on the door, he found that it was already unlocked. He entered the room wondering where Ross was and if it was still too early. Perhaps she was still taking a shower. He noticed that the quality of the glass in the bathroom didn't seem very good and wondered if he would have to endure this for the whole night. He tried to calm himself down. Just then, she came out of the bathroom and told him to let's get started. He wondered if he was going to be drained once again. Earlier, as they were looking at the photos, Moon had commented that the parents were such a perfect match. Leah noticed a card attached to one of the photos and mentioned it. Ross asked to see it. They read the note, which wished that the silver light would always shine in the eyes of the one they loved. Both of them wondered who was in love with each other. Ross said that something must be wrong and suggested they fix the photo for her. Liam agreed, telling her that it must have been written incorrectly. The scene shifted to the present, where Leon was with Ross in her room. She asked him where he would prefer to be, whether in the living room or the balcony. He mentioned the balcony, but quickly added that it wasn't a good idea, as it would be embarrassing to be seen by others. She then stated that in the living room, it didn't make a difference where they were. He was tired and lay down on the couch. She wondered what he was doing. He asked if she didn't want that. She replied that he seemed unhappy, but that night wasn't suitable, so they could do it another day. He coughed as he got up and wondered what was going on. She explained that there were test questions for the viviparous families which had been assessed by the St. Health Academy in the past. The questions were all about the living habits, personality, and experiences of the partners. They both needed to prepare their answers in advance to avoid affecting Noah's admission assessment if they were unable to answer the questions. He wondered aloud if those questions weren't a bit boring, like something from a couple's tactics understanding game. He then asked her about her favorite color. She replied that it was black and asked about his. He told her that his favorite color was silver. They both noticed that each of their favorite colors matched the color of their hair. Ross laughed and said it must be a coincidence, to which Leon agreed. After they finished answering the questions, he pointed out that his score was higher than hers and remarked that it seemed like he knew her better. She thought to herself that she hadn't expected him to notice her little habits, like how she liked to sit or how she arranged her things most comfortably. He must be quite observant. All of her assumptions had been wrong. She had always been used to keeping things to herself and never telling others, so it was normal for him to guess incorrectly. As she was lost in thought about him, he caught her staring at him. He thought that maybe it was because he scored higher than her and that she was harboring a grudge against him. He placed a hand on her shoulder and told her that the time they had spent together was too short, so it was understandable that she couldn't score as highly in such a short time. He suggested that they should get to know each other better for Noah's sake. She felt a bit uncomfortable and then told him to stop talking nonsense and write down his correct answers now. She then asked if she had gotten the questions wrong, and he reassured her, saying he had never been disappointed in her. She denied it, explaining that it was just that there had been a few dragon-grade forces last time. Leon then teased her, saying he would eat the dragon-grade force as his mail, so she shouldn't forget it. Ross poked him, telling him she was looking forward to it. The scene shifted to the night before the exams, where Ross lay down exhausted. Leon told her that they had done well. After a week of hard work, their average score on the test questions had reached around 80 points, and if they performed normally, there would be no problem with the family assessment. He got up and said, "If there's nothing else, you will head back first." As he was about to leave, she stopped him and told him to take a bath first and then come back. He hesitated, unsure about bathing in her room. She pushed him, saying just go and wash when she tell him to. He went inside to undress for the bath, wondering why she wanted him to shower there without any particular reason. Was she planning something? But considering how nervous she had been lately because of the entrance exam, she should be fine. Regardless of the reason, he thought he should enjoy the bath and focus on the good feeling it would bring. Just as he entered the room, wearing only a towel, he told her that he had been feeling a lot of pressure recently and wanted to relax. He thought that what he had been guessing about had finally come to fruition. He then asked if she was under pressure, why she was putting pressure on him. She replied that by transferring the pressure to him, she could feel relieved. She then showed her body to him and asked, "Didn't he come here with this mentality a few days ago?" He was shocked and tried to look away. She stepped closer, telling him that he couldn't run away and should just surrender himself. The scene shifts to the admission test at the St. Health Academy, where Leon and his family arrive. Leon was surprised to see the academy and exclaims in awe. He reaches out to Ross, asking what's wrong, noting that he had just done the decompression last night, but the effects wore off so quickly. She brushes him off, telling him to just keep moving ahead. They reach the reception desk, where the lady informs them that Noah was from the Silver Dragon clan and was only 1 year and 3 months old. Leon asks if there's a problem. The lady replies that she's not surprised, but mentions that while the Academy's policy allows young dragons to enter at 1 year of age, most of the young dragons enrolled were between 4 and 6 years old. She wonders if Noah was too young to be enrolling. Ross responds that Noah was very smart, and there's nothing wrong with her age. She assures the receptionist that they respect her decision. The receptionist agrees and tells them to proceed, as a special staff member will escort Noah for the entrance test. The accompanying parents were asked to head to the 4th floor for the home assessment. The scene shifts to the meeting room on the 4th floor, where Leon, Ross, and the others were sitting together. Ross grabbed his hand while sitting in front of others and whispered to him based on her experience, asking if he thought those 3 were easy to deal with. He responded that the man seemed easy to kill, and that the one before, who was captured by her, would, had his head taken off easily in 50 rounds. He added that if they didn't let Noah into the academy, he would meet them with her sword. He was glaring at them with a killing intent. He thought to himself that it was an imposing display for a parent. An old man then introduced himself as Walter Wilson, the vice principal of St. Health Academy, and the one responsible for the assessment. He reassured them not to be nervous and to relax while answering the questions. They agreed, thinking that Walter didn't seem so bad and nothing strange would go wrong. He asked if they both knew when their wedding anniversary was. This reminded them of the past, when they had discussed this very topic. She had mentioned that if someone asked about the wedding anniversary, they wouldn't know how to answer, since they hadn't officially married yet and she had been secretly pregnant before they got married. He said that if he had to pick a day that left a deep impression on him, it would have to be that day. She replied that it was in the year 1733 of the creation calendar. They stopped reminiscing and said together that it was the 25th of May. He thought to himself that it was the day they had bonded in the dungeon. Walter mentioned that the child was already over a year old, less than 2 years into the marriage, and the progress seemed faster than in ordinary families. Leon explained that Joan had fallen in love at first sight, had a good relationship, and quickly married after she became pregnant. Walter then asked if, in the 2 years of marriage, they had discovered any shortcomings or bad habits in their partner. Leon agreed, but Ross denied it. He believed the answer should be a mixture of truth and falsehood to make it more believable. Ross then asked Leon what had happened to him. Leon explained that sometimes he felt like he didn't exist, as his wife was capable and managed family affairs and housework in an orderly manner. He held her hand and continued, saying that she easily accumulated stress, so he wanted to take this opportunity to express his desire to do more for the family and not rely solely on her. He hoped she wouldn't exploit him when she was under a lot of pressure in the future. The lady remarked that Leon was very considerate and a good husband, then asked Ross what he thought was the most attractive thing about him. Ross said that Leon was handsome, had a good figure, was focused, serious, smart, not greasy, responsible, liked children, and never lost his temper. Although her health was not as good as it was before marriage, it wasn't a major issue, and her husband was also skilled at making medicines and using all kinds of treatments to care for her. She wondered if she was praising or insulting him. Ross took his hand, telling him she would also like to take this opportunity to say something to her husband. She told him not to push himself too hard, tightening her grip to make him feel the pain. The examiners thought they made a lovely couple, and after assessing them both, Walter concluded the interview by asking if they had any questions for each other, as this was an additional part of the process, and the person being asked had to answer truthfully. Ross replied that she didn't have any questions for her husband since she knew everything about him. When Walter asked Leon if he had any questions, Ross thought that the more they talked, the more mistakes they might make, so it would be best to end things quickly. Leon then asked her if she liked the teddy bear he gave her. She wondered why he would ask such a question, as it had nothing to do with their identity, position, or grievances, and his thoughts always surprised her. She blushed and said that she liked it very much. He clapped and told her that he was fine now. They all stood up, and Walter announced that the interview was over. The results of the assessment would be sent to Silver Dragon Castle via dragon letter in a few days, and he thanked them both for their cooperation. A few days later, a dragon arrived at Ross's mansion with the letter, and Mew became excited upon seeing it. Everyone gathered to watch as Leon opened the letter, and they found out that Noah had passed the exam. Moon hugged Ross, telling her that her parents and sister were so awesome. Ross thanked Leon, but Leon wondered why she was thanking him, as it was mainly up to Noah herself, and she was certainly worthy of being his daughter. Ross mentioned that she would hold a grand male celebration on the same day and invited Leon to help, so people wouldn't say he didn't exist in the family. Ya grinned, telling her that she was very petty and always held a grudge. At the St. Health Academy entrance ceremony, all the parents and their children were seated in the hall. Walter congratulated them on passing the assessment and welcomed them to attend the entrance ceremony. There were many students with excellent academic performance among the new students, and it was believed that only harmonious families could cultivate such outstanding students. Walter took the opportunity to invite those families to share their experiences. As part of this, he invited Noah's family to the stage. Noon was excited as her parents and Noah made their way to the stage. Her maid, Anna, stood beside her. As they reached the stage, Leon seemed uneasy, recalling Walter's words from an hour ago, telling them that Noah had received the highest marks and that even Ross and Leon had secured the top positions in the family assessment. Walter had urged them to come to the stage and give a speech as representatives of the freshman class and their families. Leon thought that he could only bite the bullet and go along with it. Noah stood on a table to reach the microphone, and then Walter spoke, telling her that she was the youngest candidate but had achieved the highest score. He asked what experience she wanted to share with everyone. Noah began by saying that her mother was a powerful dragon, and as she grew up, she only wanted to be as strong as her mother. When she proposed coming to the school, her mother had given her affirmation and support. Her sister Moon had always been there for her, and she was grateful to them both. Leon wondered if Noah was going to say anything about him. Noah took a deep breath and continued, saying that she was most thankful to her father, who helped her review for the exam daily and often stayed up late preparing materials. It was thanks to him that she was standing there. Leon became emotional as Noah thanked him for her speech. Walter remarked that it seemed Leon was excellent at teaching children. He then asked, since Noah was so grateful to him, why Leon didn't give her a kiss to show his fatherly love. Leon was surprised and wondered what Walter was talking about. He certainly didn't want the entrance ceremony to turn into a scene of patricide. He turned toward Noah, thinking about how just a month ago she wouldn't even let him touch her. So how could she allow him to kiss her in public? He approached her and told her not to be silly, that they could just hug each other. But she urged him to hurry up and finish the kiss, making him feel even more shocked. He hesitated, thinking about what she had said, and then gave her a kiss on the forehead. Moon, seeing this, tried to step forward, saying she wanted to kiss her sister as well. Anne attempted to stop her, telling her that she couldn't go up. Ross thought it was fortunate that Leon didn't have to kiss Noah. Walter remarked that excellent dragons never forget to show gratitude to their family, and the way Ross's family stood by each other made them feel what a real family should be like. He then added that Leon had just kissed his daughter, and how could he forget his wife? Both Ross and Leon were shocked by this, and Leon thought that Walter was getting ahead of himself. He should have dealt with him back on the day of the assessment. Leon glanced at Noah, thinking about how this was her most important entrance ceremony. He had been through many battles. How could he be scared by such a small scene? He reached out his hand to Ross, telling her that they were the happiest and most harmonious family. Ross was taken aback by his reaction, wondering if he really wanted to kiss her in front of hundreds of dragons. He denied it, saying that since their daughters were watching, they should cooperate. Ross felt embarrassed by the suggestion. Leon drew Ross closer, and she thought that although they had slept together and held hands, they had never kissed, except for that one time 2 years ago. How could he be so calm about this, while she felt so nervous? As he was about to kiss her, she moved her lips slightly, but he kissed her on the cheek instead. She felt embarrassed by that as well. Liam bowed toward all the dragons, saying that it was all he could do, but the crowd began asking him to kiss her again. Leon turned to Ross and said that it felt good and helped relieve stress. Ross was angry, feeling that he was using her to relieve his stress. She thought that if it weren't in front of so many people, she would have pinned him to the ground. Walter thanked them for the laughter and joy they had brought to the ceremony, describing them as the model family of the year. He then suggested they go down and rest before continuing the ceremony. After the ceremony, Ross, her family, and Anna stepped outside. Ross told Noah that they were now ready to go and would pick her up next weekend, asking her to take care of herself. Noah agreed. Moon hugged Ross, saying that she wanted to be with her. Noah replied that she would miss Moon as well. Liam bent down to Noah's level and reminded her to eat on time, not be picky about the food, and study hard. He told her that if she didn't understand something, she could ask him when she came home during the holidays. The most important thing, he said, was that if she got sick, she must see the academy doctor and not be stubborn. Noah replied that she wasn't a child anymore. Leon smiled and said those were the same things her mother would say when she was drunk, and since Noah was embarrassed to hear it directly from her, he was doing it for her. Ross mentioned that it was nonsense to think that way, but Liam continued, telling Noah that if she met classmates with bad personalities, she should stay away from them. However, if they dared to bully her, she should fight back, as her dad would always support her. Noah asked if he had done such things when he was in school. Leon agreed, saying that every time after a fight, Noah's grandfather would take him home and beat him up. But Noah didn't have to worry, as her dad wouldn't beat her for such a small matter. Noah agreed, saying she would remember that. The scene shifted to Ross's study, where she was reading about the blood curse, a forbidden magic that could only be used once in a lifetime. It required blood as a medium, and the caster's life was the price. If perfected, it might become a potent weapon. Just then, someone entered. It was Shirley, a trusted maid from the Silver Dragon clan. Ross asked how the investigation was progressing. Shirley apologized, explaining that there were no leads on Tiger Lawrence and his wife in the Empire. They had gone missing. Ross was surprised to hear this, and Shirley continued, saying that all information had been erased so thoroughly that her subordinates were unable to track their whereabouts. Ross mentioned that, according to Leon, his master had been just an ordinary old man living on a farm, but it now seemed he was far from simple. She instructed Shirley to continue the investigation and to notify her immediately if she found any new information. Shirley agreed. Outside in the garden, Leon was swinging a stick, demonstrating to Moon how to swing it down hard like he did. Moon agreed and swung it with less formality. Just then, Ross arrived, and Leon remarked that Ross had returned from her rounds. Ross nodded, and as Moon hugged her, she asked if Moon had listened to her father that day. Moon agreed, saying that she had been obedient and that her father had even taught her how to hold a sword. Ross commented that it wasn't bad and mentioned that dinner would be ready soon. She planned to ask the chef to prepare steak, so she told Moon to go and change her clothes first. Moon, excited by the mention of steak, eagerly agreed. Anna then took Moon away, and as Ross turned toward Leon, he unexpectedly placed the stick in front of her face, surprising her. She asked if he had finally decided to attack her. She pointed out that in the Silver Dragon Castle, pointing a weapon at someone was a punishable crime, punishable by death. Leon responded that it was just a branch and that calling it a weapon was an exaggeration. Ross questioned whether, as the former strongest dragon slayer, he didn't think that even a branch could be deadly in his hands. Leon relaxed and moved closer, telling her that if she wanted to praise someone, she should do so properly, and asked why she was being so sarcastic. Ross wondered who would praise him. They both sat on a bench, and Leon said that he wanted to scare her, but it would be pointless if she wasn't afraid. She replied that she didn't think a twig in his current state could hurt her. She then mentioned the letter from Noah she had received the previous day, saying that Noah was doing fine and had asked them not to worry about her. Leon asked if that was all. She denied it, saying that it was rare for Noah to take the initiative to write back and let her know she was safe. Leon agreed, noting that Noah was very similar to Ross in that regard. He added that Noah always had a stern expression, making it hard to read her thoughts, but as long as Ross found the right approach, she was actually very pleasant to get along with. Ross remarked that Noah admired him, explaining that Noah had a very typical dragon mentality. She admired the strong and yearned for strength. Leon was now a top student in Noah's eyes, having won many first-place awards at the academy, and Noah never wanted to lose to him. Leon thought that in Noah's heart, he was just a weak nerd. Ross took off her shoes, sat down, and put her legs on the bench. She then told Leon that when he first woke up, Noah had avoided him, but in truth, she had visited him often during his coma. Occasionally, when Ross noticed, Noah would make excuses, saying she was going to see Moon. Leon commented that the tough part was similar to Ross. Ross continued, saying that when their daughters were little, David would cry and no one could calm her, but as soon as they were placed next to Leon, she would immediately calm down. Perhaps before he even realized it, the blood ties had already bound them together. Leon mentioned that it was a bit strange. He then reminded her that he was an orphan and had never experienced the love of parents as a child. He didn't know what family affection truly was. When he was 5 years old, his master adopted him. Although they weren't related by blood, his master and his wife cared for him as if he were their own son. For the first time, he understood the concept of home, but he occasionally felt a sense of loss in his heart. One day, he saw a child playing with their parents and wondered if his master and his wife were truly his real parents. His master's wife had patted his head and told him that he would become someone else's father in the future. He had wondered if that was true. He stopped reminiscing when he thought of Ross and his daughters, who were now his most cherished family members. As he clenched his hands, Ross asked what he was daydreaming about and reminded him that they should head back. He hesitated for a moment, then thanked her for saying that and agreed to go. She put on her shoes but stopped and looked at him. When he asked what was wrong, she replied that if he truly wanted to thank her, he should put on her shoes for her. He was surprised to hear this. He then refused, saying it was humiliating enough that he had been her footstool the last time, and now she wanted him to put on her shoes. Didn't he have any dignity? Ross responded by placing her foot on his face, telling him that the adult world had settled the score for him kissing her at the entrance ceremony. Now he couldn't even help her put on her shoes. She told him to stop talking nonsense and finish it quickly so they could go back. He reluctantly agreed, and as he put on her shoes, she mentioned that even though he claimed to be unwilling, His movements were surprisingly quick. He replied, saying it was much easier to put shoes on her than to put shoes on a donkey. Ross, angered, prepared to kick him, but he dodged it with a smile, telling her that as long as he ran fast, she couldn't hit him. He wondered what the point of running so fast was, knowing they'd likely be in trouble that night. A few days later, the scene shifted to the dragon game, and Moon was so excited to see it. Leon remarked that the dragon was several times larger than Ross in her transformed form. Ross explained that the dragon was Leviathan, a species not particularly powerful but known for its superior endurance and stable emotions. It usually served as a transporter in the dragon clan. Leon wondered if it was truly emotionally stable. A beam of light descended, and Ross explained that it was said of Leviathan would never lose its temper throughout its entire lifespan, from birth to death, only once in thousands of years. She mentioned that the Academy used them to pick up and drop off the baby dragons. Noah arrived with the beam of light, and Ross welcomed her warmly. Moon immediately hugged Noah, saying she had missed her so much. Noah hesitated to call Leon Dad, but Leon understood, recognizing that she wasn't used to calling him that yet. They all began heading inside, and Leon mentioned that he was glad Noah had returned with her mother. He had made a lot of her favorite dishes. Noah showed them several test papers in different subjects, all the perfect scores and first-place rankings. However, she also revealed a physical fitness test where she had scored 95 points and apologized for not getting first place. Ross reassured her that there was no need to apologize, as it was still incredibly impressive. Moon agreed, saying that to her, Noah was always the best. Leon thought about how one person couldn't express emotions, while the other expressed them too fully, but in the end, it was up to him to manage it all. He observed that running, bench pressing, and pull-ups were basic physical training exercises, and the young dragons of her level, around 4 or 5 years old, were naturally more physically fit. It was normal that her physical fitness was a bit behind compared to them. However, he pointed out that she still won 9 out of 10 actual combat matches, and she had the highest winning rate in her class. This demonstrated that while she might not be as physically strong as the young dragons, she was far ahead of them in strategy and fighting skills. So there was no need for her to worry too much about being third. There would be plenty of opportunities to surpass them in the future. She mentioned that she had heard from her mom that her dad had been the top student in every subject when he was in school. Leon revealed that when he first entered the school, he wasn't at the top of his class. It was only through hard work and perseverance that he eventually climbed to the first place. He reassured her that Noah still had plenty of time, so there was no need to worry about one mistake holding her back, and he believed she could do even better. Noah agreed with him, and Moon chimed in, saying that her dad was so powerful. She wondered who would win if he fought Ross. Both Leon and Ross commented that the outcome would depend on the day, but Leon then mentioned that back in his own combat training, no one could match him, whether it was hand-to-hand combat, weapon combat, or magic combat. This, he said, meant that he was the better fighter. She mentioned that although she hadn't won as many honors at the academy as he had, she had only won the key games. She also teased that it was because he had never beaten her that he married her. He replied that it was because she failed to beat him that they now had such lovely daughters. She suggested they go out for a fight, and he agreed, saying he had been waiting to demonstrate his skills for a long time. Noah was taking Moon outside as well, and Moon was excited, wondering if they were both going to fight. They stretched their bodies, and the daughters sat down with popcorn to watch. Moon asked her sister if she was curious about who was more powerful between their parents. Noah replied that her teacher had told her that watching masters compete often could improve their own fighting skills. Ross told Leon that his body probably hadn't recovered enough to fight properly. Leon asked what had happened, and Ross explained that there weren't many opportunities to find the Silver Dragon Queen, so they had to seize every chance they got. She then suggested they make a wager. He wondered what she wanted to bet on. Ross explained that if he won, she wouldn't touch him for a month, and if she won, he would have to meet one of her requests. Leon thought about it, uncertain of what perverted demands she might make, but since he could endure it, he figured a month of peace would be easy enough. He accepted the challenge, and they prepared to start the fight. As they prepared to fight, Moon's pineapple juice had fallen to the ground. The 5-star was the first to land a hit on her, but she blocked it with her fist and counterattacked with her tail. He avoided the strike by dodging and quickly rushed in to kick her. Moon stepped back, realizing she did not have the advantage in physical combat compared to him. She thought it would be better to keep some distance. Leon remarked that it seemed she did not want to engage in close combat. She simply responded that as long as she could defeat him, that was enough. She then launched an attack using dragon flames, but he dodged them by running. Moon began to wonder if her father was going to lose as he kept avoiding the attacks. Noah reassured her that it wasn't necessarily the case. Their father was using pure physical skills to attack and dodge, while their mother used dragon flames to maneuver and control the battlefield, looking for openings. It became clear that she lacked confidence in defeating their father in close combat. Moon commented that her sister seemed to know a lot about these things. Noah replied that their teacher had taught them well in class. Meanwhile, Ross challenged Leon, remarking on his speed and daring him to come closer. She attacked again and he kept his distance, mentioning that he was not only fast but also tough. She then used her power to create dragon flares, attacking from both sides. A powerful blast erupted between them. But still he emerged from the blast, remarking that she was too slow. She realized then that he had been using thunder magic to strengthen his body. He rushed toward her, declaring that no one would take away his 1-month vacation. He attacked her with a magic-infused strike, and she thought to herself that his magic power still hadn't fully recovered. Yet using thunder magic to push both his magic and body at such extremes seemed ridiculous. She knew she needed to finish the fight quickly. He suddenly found an opening, sliding in close ready to punch her as he declared his victory. But just as he thought he had won, she regained her balance and grabbed his hand. Their bodies lightly touched, and when it became clear he wasn't going to strike her, she took the chance to attack with dragon flames, setting his clothes on fire. Surprisingly, he noticed the flames weren't very hot. She reminded him that the battle wasn't over, and they couldn't afford to be distracted. At that moment, their daughters arrived. Moon eagerly asked who had won. Leon admitted that he had been careless at the end and lost this time. Ross acknowledged his strength, admitting that without enchanted armor and weapons, no one before him had ever come so close to defeating her with pure physical skill alone. Leon quickly denied being that strong, saying that if he had fought with his full strength, he surely would have been able to defeat her. But Ross reminded him of their bet, telling him not to forget it. He froze, shocked to remember, and then lay down on the ground in disappointment. Noon wondered aloud if her father was dead. Ross smiled and reassured her that he was fine. He had just overexerted himself and collapsed from exhaustion, but he would recover soon. That same night, the scene shifted to Noah and Moon's room, where Leon told Noah that after he left, she would have to take good care of Moon, as her little sister was still young and naive. Since Noah was the elder sister, it was her responsibility to look after Moon. He then turned to Moon, asking her to listen to her sister, not to make her angry, and to stay home as a good girl. What worried him most about leaving was them. They were only a little over 1 year old, and he couldn't imagine how their mother had ever allowed him to leave in the first place. Noah teased him, saying he was only going to stay in their mother's room for one night, so why was he acting like he was heading to the execution ground? Leon sighed and replied that, in a way, facing an execution ground only took a moment, but their mother could torment someone for an entire night, and that was far worse. Moon, with innocent curiosity, wondered if their mother was going to eat him. She had read in a book that after a male and female mantis married, the female would eat the male. Leon chuckled nervously and told her that although people said eating, it wasn't exactly that. But still, in a way, he was about to be eaten, so why was she looking so happy about it? Just then, Ross arrived, telling him to stop filling their daughters' heads with nonsense, as if she were some terrifying monster. She turned to her daughters, telling them to go to bed early and not to worry. She explained that she simply wanted to discuss something interesting with their dad that night. Leon, curious, asked what was so interesting, and Ross replied that it was like the birth of a war, the birth of life itself. Leon, puzzled, asked if it was the mysteries of the world. Ross smirked and said it was the mystery of the human body. As they spoke, Ross grabbed his shirt from behind, pulling him away. She told him it was enough of the goodbyes and that he should just follow her. Leon hesitated, saying he had some last words to say, then told both his daughters that he loved them. As the lights turned off, Moon wondered what they were going to do. Noah shrugged and said she didn't know. They should just let the naive adults handle things. The scene then shifted to Ross's bedroom, where she was sipping a drink and asked if he didn't want one. When he declined, she reminded him that he had promised her that he would fulfill her request after losing to her, but now he didn't even want a drink. He replied that he wasn't in the mood for drinking, adding that he planned to keep his sanity intact that night and not let her lead him by the nose. She placed her drink on the table and remarked that she hoped he could win. Ross was surprised to hear that. She continued, saying that if he won, she would give him a month off, so he would take the time to recover and maybe things would get more fun. If he lost, however, she would admit defeat. She denied it, saying she had thought of a better way. Wearing a nightdress, she casually dropped the drink on her body, smiling as she remarked that what she liked most was how he refused to admit defeat after losing to her. As she moved closer to him, he asked what she was doing. She simply told him to drink. He noticed her body's scent mixed with the aroma of red wine, creating a combination so beautiful it was impossible to refuse. He began drinking, but she made him feel strangely like a pervert. After a moment, he asked if that was enough. She replied that it wasn't and instructed him to open his mouth. Then, with a quick motion, she bit her own tongue to draw blood and put it into his mouth. Shocked, he pushed her away, asking what she was doing. He wondered if she had used a forbidden technique on him. She confirmed, explaining it was the blood curse, a technique he was familiar with. His eyes widened in disbelief as he trembled, wondering why she would do such a thing. She answered that ever since he had used the forbidden technique on her 2 years ago, she had been longing for the feeling of it. He asked if she knew the price to pay for such a technique. She nodded, saying she had modified the spell slightly to minimize the impact of the blood curse on the dragon's body, retaining only its enchanting effect. Soon he began to feel a heat spreading through him, his mind becoming blank. She moved closer, speaking about how she had always been the one forcing him, threatening him, and how he always appeared reluctant. Now she wanted him to coax her, to beg her like a mad dog to make out with him. She got up, and he found himself on his knees. She smirked and told him that the game was about to start. He was struggling to control himself as she moved closer, telling him that he was on the brink of losing control. She asked if he knew what he looked like right now. When he denied it, she showed him a magical item she had brought from Sky City, a device that could record images for short periods of time. He looked into it, and she asked him to tell her right in front of the recording what he wanted to do. He hesitated before mentioning the kiss, realizing that it felt wrong. She pressed him, asking what he had said and to say it louder. With a raised voice, he admitted that he wanted to kiss her. He quickly thought that he didn't mean to say it, but it was too late. She moved closer, gently touching his face and commenting on how embarrassed he was, pointing out that he had abandoned his usual boundaries and was now humbly asking for a kiss from his enemy. He firmly told her he wouldn't give her a kiss. She smirked, looking at him, and then took her to lie down on the floor, sitting on top of her. She remarked that it was unlike him to be so impatient. He kissed her hand, admitting that he wanted to kiss her and hold her, to become one with her. She realized then that this was how she would take the initiative, now that he was under the influence of the blood curse. It had finally come to this moment. She remarked that he had asked for this, and now she wanted to see his true self after his fall. They spent the night together, and the next morning he awoke, his thoughts immediately going to what had happened. He realized that he had fallen again the previous night. He blamed it all on the blood curse, which had caused him to abandon his pride and dignity as a dragon, begging her to make love with him. It was another shame, one that crossed his bottom line. Looking at her while she slept, he thought to himself that, as the one responsible, she must have had a great time, now lying there defenseless and at peace. He reached out to touch her face, wondering what he was doing and why his hand was drawn to her. He quickly told himself that he only wanted to wake her up. He had no other intentions. But as he observed her, he began to question if she was pretending to be asleep. He tapped her gently on the forehead with his finger, telling her to stop pretending and get up quickly. Wasn't she usually so self-disciplined? He couldn't understand why she hadn't woken up yet. Perhaps the blood curse was still affecting her. He remembered that the impact of the spell depended on the caster's physical fitness. When he had been on the brink of death, he had cast the blood curse, and although he didn't know how he survived, it had put him in a coma for 2 years. She, however, was a healthy dragon queen, so she would probably be out for about a week. He thought to himself that this was a good opportunity for him to escape. In a week, an ordinary human body couldn't travel far, but things would be different if he were wearing the black gold armor. He prepared to leave, thinking that with the stamina recovery potions and pills he had, he could run at full speed and make it back to the human realm. By the time she woke up and realized he was missing, it would already be too late. He laughed for a moment, but soon felt a wave of disappointment. It had already been 2 years since he left the Empire, and he had no idea what the situation was like there now. He thought about the many uncertainties surrounding his capture, and it would be too risky to return recklessly. It was better to be cautious. Besides, he had already asked her to investigate the current state of his master, so it might be better to wait for news from her. Most importantly, he thought of his daughters, whom he could never abandon. It seemed that he still had to remain in the Silver Dragon Castle for now. After all, he hadn't yet taken his revenge. The daughters stood near Ross, and Mune mentioned that she hadn't slept like that before. Noah asked Leon what he had done to their mother the previous night. Leon replied that they had been chatting on the balcony, and perhaps she had gotten cold from the night wind. He assured them that it was no big deal. Anna reassured them, saying that the castle physician had just examined Ross. Aside from feeling a bit weak, everything was normal. She added that she would take care of the clan affairs on Ross's behalf for the next few days. If Leon didn't have anything to do, Anna would go ahead and handle it. Liam told her to go ahead, as she must be very busy. Mew patted Ross on the head, telling him to get better soon, and that she would never make him angry again. Liam noticed how much she was sweating and thought she must need help wiping her body later. Noah observed this and asked if he was planning to do something while their mother was unconscious. He reassured her that she was overthinking it and that he just wanted to take care of their mother. Noah mentioned the date, then suggested that Mune and she should return the next day to see their mom. Mune blushed slightly and promised that she would definitely come back the next day. The two of them left, bidding Leon good night as they went. He mentioned that he should go and get a basin of water, then returned with a cloth to clean her body. He explained that he was doing it because he was worried she might catch a cold, and he didn't want her to misunderstand him when she woke up. He thought to himself that normally she would flaunt her large tail, but now she was so weak that even her tail couldn't be seen. After wiping her body, he considered whether it would be a good idea to change her clothes as well. He checked her closet, thinking there were plenty of clothes to choose from, and he could pick one according to his preferences. He selected a garment, saying that he had found one of similar style to what she needed, but then wondered about the significance of the crucial ears. He carefully braided her hair and finished changing her clothes. She now wore the Bunny Girl limited edition costume. He hadn't expected it, but it actually suited her quite well. Just then, the dragon pattern on the costume began to glow, and he wondered why it had suddenly lit up at such a time. Moon remembered Ross's words. If someone was willing, the dragon would produce a reaction. He was filled with worry, thinking about how he could have such thoughts about her when he was sober. It must have been because of the Bunny Girl costume. To calm himself down, he decided it would be better to recite the 3 honors and 3 shames of a dragon slayer 10 times. It almost worked. However, it would be a shame not to capture this rare moment when she was dressed like that. He suddenly remembered that she seemed to have a home camera. As he searched, he found the camera and began taking pictures of her from every angle. He muttered to himself that she had finally come to this day. Smiling, he called her wife and asked her to smile. Using his hand, he gently helped lift the corners of her mouth into a smile. He promised her that he would properly preserve these dark history photos. Just as he was finishing, he noticed her eyes opening slightly. He froze, wondering if she was waking up, but soon realized she had not fully woken. He decided it would be better to change her back into her ordinary pajamas and carry out the next step of the revenge plan the next day. The next morning, as Noah walked down the corridor, Moon came running toward her, calling her name. Noah asked her to slow down and tell her what happened. Moon explained that her Rubik's Cube had broken, and she wanted to ask her father to fix it, but she couldn't find him anywhere. Noah wondered if he had escaped while their mother was unconscious. She grabbed Moon's hand, telling her not to worry and that she would go and find him. Moon kept calling out, asking where Dad was. Moon went to their mom's bedroom and found that he wasn't there, nor was he in his own room. She looked into a container, wondering if their father was there. Noah also wondered how their father could be there. Moon mentioned that she couldn't find him anywhere and wondered if he had gotten lost. Noah replied that some people were kind, but they leave sooner or later, just like last time. Moon wondered what he meant by last time. Noah guessed correctly that he had left. She reminded him that she had always felt there was something different about their family. While it seemed harmonious on the surface, in reality there were many falsehoods. As far as Moon could remember, Leon had been sleeping in the room, and their mom had told them that he was their father. One day, he finally woke up, but immediately thought about running away. Their mom took him back without any explanation, and he hadn't tried to escape since then. But Noah didn't think that he wanted to stay there willingly. Later, he started to deliberately approach her, trying to please her, teaching her, and acting like a good father. But Moon wondered, was that truly out of love for her, or was it just a plan to take advantage of their lowered guard and secretly look for an opportunity to escape? And when there were unknown factors behind love, Seawood would rather not have impure love. He would rather become a tool used by others. He didn't belong there, and sooner or later he would abandon them. Moon became emotional as she said that their mom wouldn't wake up and that she wouldn't want them anymore. She wondered what they should do in the future. Noah reassured her that everything would be fine and that she would surely protect her. Moon began crying in Noah's arms, and Noah suggested they hold a farewell ceremony for Leon. The scene shifted to near the Black Mountain of the Silver Dragon Castle, where Leon was walking and remarking that the scenery was so nice, just as the maid had told him. He remembered his conversation with Anna, where she had wondered if he would like to know where Ross liked to go. He had agreed, saying that he wanted to go out for a walk. Anna told him that if he wanted to go, she would send someone to accompany him. Leon had shown her a map, saying that there was no need for an escort as he could go by himself. All he needed was for her to circle the location on the map for him. He had asked her not to keep reminding him that the range of activities was limited. He had only had the opportunity to come out and take a look when Ross was unconscious, and now was time to investigate the surrounding terrain and give her a good surprise when she woke up. Investigating the places she liked was just a cover. It was part of his revenge plan. He was planning to take advantage of her weakness when she woke up and make her suffer the humiliation in the place she loved, just like what she had done to him in front of her hometown before. He looked at a tree and remarked that its thickness was enough, then posed as if he were about to kiss her. The soil on the ground wasn't soft enough, so it would be nice to cover it with flower petals when the time came. He then looked at the castle and mentioned that it wasn't so bad, including it in his selection as well. Now everything was ready, so he just had to wait for her to wake up. And when she did, she would be in trouble. That night, in the Silver Dragon Castle's courtyard, he noticed a fire and saw maids crying. He approached, wondering why it seemed so lively and what was happening. One of the maids explained that the 2 princesses had said they wanted to hold a funeral and had asked them to prepare a bonfire. Miu mentioned that she would give the steak to him when it just returned. Noah replied that Leon had already left, so they should just let it go. Leon wondered if they were playing some kind of ritual game and decided to cooperate with them. As he walked closer, he overheard the maids talking in shock at seeing him. He approached his daughters, wondering where they were sitting, and thought about how their grandfather had once taught him to play the suona. He asked if they wanted him to show them how to play, but then he saw a photo of himself surrounded by flowers. At first he thought he looked handsome, But then he was shocked when he realized what the photo meant. Myun was happy to see him. He mentioned that he had only been out for one day, so wasn't it too hasty to hold a funeral for him? Myun, crying, ran to hug him and said that she thought he didn't want her anymore. He wondered what nonsense she was talking about and how he could possibly not want her. No explained that she and Myun had searched for him in the castle several times but couldn't find him, which made her think he had left. Leon wondered why he would leave when he had just gone for a walk in the back mountain that day. Noah was holding the box in which she had been taking care of the things Leon had given her, and she sat thinking that she had wronged him. Leon, still hugging Myun, stood up and told all the maids that it was fine and asked them to go home. Myun asked if she could eat the tribute for him, now that he was back. He agreed, and happily she began eating it. Leon thought that Myun was surely not like him because she was so greedy. Noah then told him that next time if he went out, he should just tell them as Myun was so worried about him. Leon apologized for making them worry. He thought that Noah clearly seemed worried about him but was too embarrassed to say it out loud. She told him that the matter was her fault for not trusting him, and she apologized for that. He was surprised as she bowed to him, thinking that this was her farewell ceremony due to her understanding. Obviously, no one would know if she didn't say anything. Precocious children always consciously take on their share of responsibility and mistakes, but ultimately that mistake was his, as he had failed to give her a proper sense of security. Noah longed for affection and love, but she wouldn't take the initiative to make the first move. Even if he promised for something now, she wouldn't believe him so easily. As her father, all he could do was prove it slowly with practical actions. He then patted her head and said, "It's fine. Now let's go have dinner together," as she had to go to the academy tomorrow. The next day, Myun was sitting near her mom's bed, looking at her. Just then, Ross woke up and Myun became emotional upon seeing her awake. She mentioned that Mom had been sleeping all the time and Myun had been so worried about her. Ross touched her face and apologized for making her worry. Myun thought that her body was too weak to exert any strength, and there was no reaction from the magic in her body. Originally, with her body as the Dragon Queen, she could have withstood the side effects of the Blood Curse's backlash, but now it seemed that wasn't the case. Perhaps it was because she had used her strength to save him before. Knowing his personality, he would have probably left by now. Then she asked how long she had slept. Myun replied that it had been 2 days. Now mentioned that Leon couldn't have gone far in just 2 days, so there should still be time to send someone to catch him. Just then, Leon arrived, asking Myun if they could have fish for dinner, saying he had just caught a big one in the back hills. Myun was happy to see it, and Leon said that he truly was quite proud of himself. Then, noticing Ross had also woken up, she wondered where he had been. He replied that there was nowhere else he could have gone. He had simply gone to the back hills for some fresh air and to catch a fish for his dear wife to nourish her body. She wondered who he was calling his dear. Myun told her father not to be embarrassed. He mentioned that he would give Ross a glorious task, to simply send the fish to the kitchen, and ask if she could do that. Myun agreed and then dragged the fish to the kitchen. Afterward, Leon said he had something to discuss with Ross, so he asked Myun to go ahead and eat dinner first. Ross told him that she had thought he would abandon their daughter and run away while she was unconscious. He replied that there were still many things between them that had not yet been settled, so why would he run away? She wondered what he meant by that and gradually remembered what she had done to him when he had woken up more than a month ago. She wondered again what it was, and as she realized, he confirmed that it was just as she thought. She returned to the bed, telling him not to think he could attack her just because she was weak, and advised him not to do anything rash. He wondered if he hadn't been weak at that time as well. When he had first woken up, he hadn't even been given a sip of water before the sea curved the dragon pattern on him and pushed him down. Did she ever give him a chance to say no? She mentioned that he needed to understand what would happen to him when she recovered, so he wouldn't regret anything he did with her in the future. He replied that there would be no brigades and then lifted her, saying that it was the best decision he had ever made in his life. Now it hurt, but it was worth it to be a prisoner of war. Lifting her, he carried her to the cherry blossom forest on the Black Hill. She tried to push him away, telling him to let her go. He told her not to move or she might fall. She thought that if she had recovered her strength, she would have beaten him to the ground. They reached a giant tree and he placed her gently on the flower petals beneath it. She wondered why he had brought her there. He replied that while she had been unconscious, he had carefully investigated the places she usually liked to visit, and this had been her first stop that night. She wondered if he meant that he was planning to take her somewhere else as well. He didn't show her the castle from there, but told her she could see the entire view from this spot. She wondered if he wanted to avenge what had happened in his hometown. He began to take off his shirt, agreeing with her and saying that treating others as they had treated him was not exclusive to dragons. The dragon pattern on her body also began to emit light, and Leon explained that although he was human, he too had a strong sense of revenge and ritual. He stepped closer, turning her face toward him, and told her to look ahead carefully. Her castle was there, and all her pride and dignity came from that place. Now she could let him manipulate her. He then asked how it felt to be humiliated by a defeated dragon's lair. He spoke to her romantically, reminding her that she had done all this to him before. She made a strange sound, thinking that she wanted to resist, but her body betrayed her, craving more. Then she saw her tail, and he wondered how she still had the strength. The female sent the signal that he still had control over the situation, intending to do his best to make her feel ashamed and unwilling, because after that, she would seek even more brutal revenge on him. He mentioned that she shouldn't tell him about the future, as he always lived in the present. The night was still long, and the carnival of revenge had just begun. The next morning, he brought her back to her room, and they both lay down together. He mentioned that he was exhausted after tossing her around to different places all night, but it seemed she was quite satisfied with the evening as she slept so soundly. Yet she wondered, hadn't he come to take revenge? But in the end, she had simply been made to fully experience the humiliation of being pinned down by the dragon slayer she despised most. His revenge had succeeded this time. He was about to get up and return to his room before the maids woke, knowing they were not yet in the kind of relationship where they could share a bed until dawn. But just then, she grabbed his shirt, softly mentioning that it was cold. He thought that when people fall asleep, they instinctively move closer to warmth. It was the instinct of all living creatures. He reminded himself not to be fooled again. But still, he lay back down under the same blanket, thinking that it was indeed warmer to stay there than to return to his own cold bed. Noon woke up and found that her mom hadn't gotten up yet. She quietly entered their room, telling her mom to wake up as the sun was setting. Ross told her to go play instead. Noon then asked Leon to get up as the sun was shining on them. Leon wasn't asleep and mentioned that it was so warm, asking if he could sleep a bit longer. Noon looked at their sleeping position and saw that they were hugging each other tightly. She wondered who would play with her now. It was the first time she had seen them so affectionate, but she was puzzled by the many red spots on their bodies. At first, she thought they might be bug bites, and her mother thought that if they had been bitten by insects, they should apply some medicine. Noon found the medicine and reassured them, saying she would take care of them when Noah arrived. She first applied the medicine to Leon and then to Ross. After some time, Ross asked Leon to wake up. He woke up, feeling something wet on his face. He saw the green substance on his face and laughed, wondering what was on her face. Noon explained that it had been her doing, as both of them had been bitten by insects and had many red marks on their bodies, so she helped them with the medicine. They both understood what she was talking about, but there were things children were better off not knowing. Noon asked if she was awesome. Leon patted her head and told her that she had done a good job. She mentioned that next time she would help again by applying the medicine to both of them. Leon and Ross exchanged a look, both thinking that they would make sure to block the door next time. After that, Leon brought food to feed Ross, asking her to open her mouth. She wondered what he was doing. He placed a spoonful of food in her mouth and told her he would feed her since she hadn't eaten for several days. While dragons could go without food or water during their hibernation period, she must have been hungry by now. She mentioned that he didn't have to feed her, as she could do it herself. Leon responded that the taste wasn't so bad, and she agreed, saying it wasn't that bad after all. He told her that it was fried rice he had made with love. He was eating from the same spoon as well. She got upset, wondering why he was eating the food he had made for her. He replied that he was afraid she wouldn't finish it on her own, which was why he was helping her. She wondered who had said she wouldn't finish and asked for another bite. After the meal was finished, Leon got up, telling her that she was still weak and had difficulty moving these days, so he would take care of her bathing, cooking, and feeding her, and he was being so good to her. She asked if he meant to torture her after her bath or torture her in bed after dinner. Leon wondered how it could be considered torture when it was the loving care of a husband. As he was leaving, she mentioned that everything he had done so far would be humiliation she would hold over him in the future. He told her to rest and that they'd meet again in the morning. She was irritated by him and thought to herself that he really knew how to torture her. In frustration, she attacked the bed corner, trying to break it, and she realized her powers were back. Meanwhile, Leon was washing the dishes and mentioned that she shouldn't recover too quickly, as he still wanted to bully her for a few more days. At night, Anna brought the liquid medicine prescribed by the doctor to help Ross retain her strength. Ross mentioned that her body had already recovered, so it was fine not to drink it. Anna set it down and noticed a crack in the sidewall of the bed. Ross told her that she had controlled her strength well just now and would have someone fix it the next day. Anna agreed. As Anna was leaving, Ross asked her not to tell Leon about her recovery, as she wanted him to continue taking care of her for a few more days. Anna agreed with a smile on her face. Ross thought to herself that Leon's good days were over. 2 days later, Leon was in the garden with Moon. She was jumping around excitedly, telling him that she wanted to learn something, specifically how their bodies could become shiny. Leon wondered if she was talking about sparkling magic. She confirmed, saying it was the magic he and her mom had used in the training ground. He asked why she suddenly wanted to learn magic. Moon replied that her sister had learned a lot at the academy and Moon didn't want to be left behind. Leon understood that Moon wanted to learn something. He thought that the advantage of having two children at home was the competition between them, and since Myun liked her sister so much, she didn't want to be distant from Noah. Liam was excited that he would teach magic to Noah, so they began with simple magic guidance. Noah was excited as well, and after a while, she was trying hard. Liam thought that after only a few hours, Myun had managed to successfully guide the magic power in her body. Maybe she would soon experience magical enlightenment and awaken her original magical abilities. He wondered if she could be a genius. But then Myun mentioned that she was hungry and had no strength left. Liam decided not to rush things too fast and told her that it was enough for the day. He suggested they go and eat something. Myun happily agreed, saying, "Let's go and eat." That night, Anna arrived with something covered by a cloth, telling them that she had brought what they had asked for. Ross asked her to put it aside. Just then, Leon entered, and Ross asked Anna to leave and go take care of the rest. Leon recalled what Anna had said earlier, that Ross would need 5 days to fully recover, so he still had time to torture her. He approached Ross, asking if she felt uncomfortable anywhere that day, offering to give her a massage. She wondered why he hadn't let her see the might of the strongest dragon slayer that day, and if that was all he could do. He was puzzled by her words, wondering what she had just said. He took her blanket and moved away from her, telling her that she seemed so tired. He wanted to let her rest that night, but it seemed he was worrying too much. He moved closer, telling her that her mouth was tough, and her body must be tough as well. He took off his shirt, warning her that she would regret it. She replied that she had never regretted anything. He was confused when her tail suddenly wrapped around his waist, pulling him onto the bed. Then she lay on top of him, and he wondered if she had fully recovered. She told him that captives should stay quiet, then remove the cover from the item she had asked for. To his shock, he found several things meant for their intimate encounter. He was stunned by all the preparations. She then proceeded to tie his hands and legs with cuffs, even covering his eyes with a band. She told him not to think about struggling. He asked, bewildered, if she was trying to torture him into extracting a confession.